I want to show y'all what mental illness really looks like. I just did this to my car. Scratched it, keyed it up. I just bought it. I just bought this car.
Bro, need help. Man, shut your bitch ass up.
Thing is, under this video, people are commenting, yo, I wish that Lil Skies was dead instead of X.
SoundCloud rappers are a huge topic in hip-hop. They got famous fast, made a lot of noise online, and changed rap forever. And while some of them succeeded and made it big, others didn't. So what happened to the ones that fell off? I'm Rashad Bashir, and this is where the failed SoundCloud rappers now. And first up, we got Lil Xan. But before we talk about how things went wrong, we have to go over how he blew up. You see, Lil Xan's name was everywhere in 2017, arguably the peak of SoundCloud rap. You can't talk about that era without mentioning him, especially after his breakout single, Betrayed. It was one of the hottest songs of 2017, peaking at number 64 on Billboard and eventually going platinum. So things had to be looking up for him, right? Well, not exactly, as fans mocked his name and appearance, but that was the point. His stage name, Lil Xan, was a clever marketing ploy, and it worked. Betrayed even became Lyrical Lemonade's most viewed video for a time. And as of today, the video has over 500 million views on YouTube. But soon after, labels came calling. And for a 20-year-old Lil Xan, signing for $5 million was a no-brainer. Now, all he had to do was drop his debut album, Total Xanarchy, and meet the expectations of fans from a SoundCloud rapper who had just dropped a hit. The question was, could Lil Xan do it? And well, right from the jump, things weren't looking too good. However, instead of focusing on his album's release by doing a proper rollout, Lil Xan had other plans instead, and accidentally drew the anger of hip-hop fans from around the world. For some context, he sat down with Revolt TV for an interview to help promote his album, and was asked to rate various artists. It started off quite well, with him rating Drake's God Plan highly.
A great song. God's Plan is super dope. Drake's a big influence. Love him.
He took his sweet time giving Drake an 8 out of 9, but when asked about Tupac and his music, he didn't hesitate for a second, immediately giving the West Coast legend a laughably low score.
2. It's boring music.
You heard that right, Lil Xan called Tupac's music boring. And as you can imagine, this drew a lot of criticism, especially online. Even Revolt, the company who did the interview, had to put out a disclaimer, saying, the views and opinions expressed in this video are those of Lil Xan only, because they already knew his rating was about to cook up a storm. One fan commented, if Tupac was alive, this guy wouldn't even be a rapper. But it wasn't just the fans who were piling on Lil Xan for his disrespectful comment. Rappers and other hip-hop figures had something to say about it as well. Starting off with Waka Flocka Flame, who didn't hold back and outright tried to ban Lil Xan from hip-hop by tweeting, Lil Xan banned from hip-hop. Even radio like Hot 97 chimed in and jumped in on the hate train.
Anytime you are asked about Tupac or B.I.G., you better get that answer correct, sir.
Yeah, it's just, even if you literally are the world's lightest Tupac fan of all time, it ain't worth it.
In hip-hop, some things just are not tolerated.
Nope, you better respect the legends.
It's just what it is,
especially if they're not here.
So, upon seeing this, Xan released a series of tweets blaming Revolt instead of himself for the situation. I love my fans to death, but I can't let these companies keep taking advantage of me and using me to further their stuff. He also said that he was done with interviews. No more interviews. To add to that, he also took to Instagram to respond to the backlash, saying that he's not going anywhere.
PSA.
I can't go through here. What the fuck?
Lil Xan's not going anywhere. Sorry. You gotta look at this ugly face for a lot longer.
However, something way worse would happen to him. Although he didn't think it would get that serious, Lil Xan had to call the authorities after an angry mob of teenagers surrounded him for his comments about Tupac. Calling the cops over 20 angry high schoolers is definitely something else, and if he wasn't already clowned on, it would get way worse after this. He was called all kinds of names online, and felt like he had to defend his decision to call the police.
Yo, I gotta address something that I've been seeing. TMZ posted it a lot. They're saying I am a pussy for the police escorting me away from a group of 20 people that wanted to jump me.
He explained that he wasn't a gangster rapper, so he wasn't exactly a snitch for calling them.
You can call me a pussy all you want, but I am not a gang-banging rapper. Am I supposed to act hard? Am I supposed to not fuck with the police because I'm a rapper?
And this was such a wild headline that fans couldn't even believe that it actually happened. It sounds like a headline from a satirical hip-hop website, lol. And at this point, he began panicking. Weirdly enough, he doubled down and announced that Revolt TV and the media were twisting his words with the goal of trying to paint him as the bad guy in the situation, but he then apologized and tried to do damage control.
Bro, I gotta say something. The media twisted my words.
He also claimed that Tupac was in fact a legend, despite saying his music was boring in the Revolt interview.
I think Tupac is a legend. Tupac is definitely a legend.
That's what's
Tupac a legend. They just twist your words and they want you to hate me. Don't hate me.
But regardless of all of this, only a few weeks after the Tupac fiasco, Lil Xan still had a lot of eager fans waiting to hear his anticipated album, and considering how much he hyped it up, anything short of something great would have been a massive disappointment. And to build even more momentum for his album's release, Xan dropped a song with Diplo, a well-known DJ and producer, which actually garnered very positive reviews. And that's not all. He also hyped up his album Total Xanarchy by revealing its star-studded lineup of featured artists after one of his interviewers in an interview.
Speaking of which, who of your peers did you put on the album?
Xan replied by dropping huge names.
Yeah, I could definitely.
Can you give us some? Give us one.
Yeah,
I
got YG, 2 Chainz, Charlie XCX, and Diplo.
You out of here.
So with a stacked lineup like that, there was no room for Total Xanarchy to fail. Even Lil Xan said that.
We wanted the album to really be something else, you know what I mean?
And while both haters and fans eagerly waited to see if the album could live up to the insane expectations, he finally released it on April 6th of 2018. And much to everyone's surprise, even though it sold a decent amount, it was a complete flop music-wise. Despite debuting at number 10 on the Billboard charts with nearly 30,000 copies sold, fans were left angry and disappointed at the project, while critics and haters felt vindicated after all the hate sent towards them. Despite debuting at number 10 on the Billboard charts with nearly 30,000 copies sold, fans were left angry and disappointed at the project, while critics and haters felt vindicated after all the hate they sent towards them. Some fans tried to listen to the album with an open mind, but later regretted their decisions. I'm always ready to give another rapper a try, SoundCloud or not, but this is not even hot garbage, it's just garbage. But what about the critics? What did they have to say about the project? Well, a Pitchfork writer was way more confident in his review, saying, "I can confidently report that there are no good lyrics on this album." Meanwhile, Anthony Fantano had this to say about Total Xanarchy.
We're not even at the halfway point of the year yet, and this is one of the worst things I've heard all year.
According to Adam22 from No Jumper, he asked Lil Xan's manager himself and the person who discovered him as to how he felt about the album, to which he told Adam,
"It was pretty obvious that the album was bad. Xan put in like no work for the album, and I remember having that conversation with him, and if it was up to stat, Xan would have been sitting in the studio recording every night."
Unfortunately, news about the album not living up to expectations was pretty frequent, and it definitely took a toll on Lil Xan. But if you're a fan of him, you should buckle up, because that wasn't even the worst part of the year for him. You see, the constant harassment from hip-hop fans surrounding his comments about the late rap legend got to a point that he was getting harassed every single time that he went out in public. However, there was one moment when a fan pressed him so hard that the situation completely escalated out of proportion. It started out when a fan called him slurs for saying that Tupac's music was boring.
You a Charlie. Hey, yo, bro. Hey, look at this little Charlie. Do something then, dog. What the f you want, bro? Hey, get the f out. Get out. Man, God, this motherfucker.
After that, Xan actually showed the fan that he was armed, but rather than letting the tension subside, the fan continued to taunt him.
Get out! Hey, look at this guy pulling the gun right now. Look at this motherfucker. Hey, pull that shit out again, homie.
This could have turned into a horrible scenario, but luckily for the two of them, Xan got back in his car as the fan slowly walked away from the scuffle.
Look at your car, you little bitch.
However, music wasn't the only thing that Lil Xan turned his attention towards. He also beefed with another rapper who goes by the name of Killy. And the reason for their beef is so absurd that you probably won't even believe it. So take a look at this outro for Killy's No Romance music video. Now, 4 months after that music video dropped, Lil Xan went on to release a music video for No Love with this outro. As a result, Killy took to Instagram Live and called out Lil Xan.
Alive? Lil Xan. Alive? Tell him again, bro.
He also said that Xan was sending shots at him and implied that he still had a show left to do in Toronto, which was Killy's territory.
Yo, this guy's calling me a bitch. He doesn't know he has a show in Toronto on the 25th? Come on now.
By that point, tension was starting to ramp up between the two, with Lil Xan infamously talking smack about Killy during a No Jumper interview where he said,
"Your thing now, you know?
Yeah. Also, what's that rapper's name? Killy.
Why?
Yeah, Killy a bit, kill you a bit.
Whoa.
And when a fan on Twitter posted, "Killy better than Lil Xan, no cap, stop playing," Lil Xan took offense to that and clapped back. "Talk to me when Killy got a platinum record, lol." He then added, "Yo Killy, I keep hearing my song on Toronto radio, that's crazy. I hope one day you get to experience that feeling." So how did Killy respond? Well, he uploaded the tweet that Lil Xan had made and told him to square up, typing, "Enough talking, let's just bang it out." When Lil Xan's show in February in Canada finally happened, he called out Killy at the end of his concert and said,
And guess what? I don't see Killy anywhere the around here.
But he couldn't exactly back it up because he canceled his appearance at Veld Music Festival that year because he didn't want to face Killy in Toronto. So a couple months passed by and Killy just so happened to spot him outside of a club in Canada.
Hey Montreal, we out here, man.
As soon as he realized that his op was there, he quickly confronted him.
What up?
And the way that he was escorted back into the club by his bodyguards had a lot of fans laughing at how absurd it was, because it wasn't like Killy had any goons with him. He just went to confront him alone. And if his reputation wasn't already in the gutter due to the comments he made regarding Tupac, it was about to get way worse for him after this incident. Some fans even likened him to 6ix9ine because of how he acted tough online, but not in person. So despite losing the beef in humiliating fashion, Lil Xan still had millions from Betrayed and Total Xanarchy sales, right? And you'd think that he'd be satisfied with how far he had come and how rich he had gotten off his music. Well, that wasn't exactly the case, because behind all the antics, Lil Xan was facing serious mental health issues. In the same year, he uploaded a video of him keying his $150,000 Mercedes G-Wagon.
I want to show y'all what mental illness really looks like. Y'all want to see what that looks like? I just did this to my car.
And later elaborated as to why he did it, explaining that it was due to his mental health struggles.
Want to know why I'm doing that? Because of mental illness. All this materialistic shit don't mean shit in the world. And when they won't let you do, I'm owned. I'm a slave. I'm a slave to my management. I'm a slave to everybody. I don't get control of my license. I don't get control of my bank account.
Xan also stated that it doesn't matter if the internet clowned him for breaking down on social media.
I can't even drive that fucking car. They put it in the basement so I couldn't take it. I know I don't have a license, but if I have someone with the license, I could take it. So I don't care. Make fun of me. Make fun of me on the internet. I don't give a.
And honestly, as much as people might love to make fun of him, it's quite sad to see someone that young struggling with the fame that comes with having a rap career. Despite how fans of hip-hop might have felt towards him, others definitely saw that he was battling his own demons in light of everything that's happened so far. Money doesn't equal happiness, and this shows. This is sad. Please treat these people kindly because they're also going through shit. But while it's great that some fans recognize his mental health struggles, Lil Xan's failure can also be attributed to his ridiculous spending habits. Just like that time he covered all the expenses for a Universal trip with his friends.
I'll take all my homies. I'll spend $700 to take 7 of my friends in there.
Apparently, they just got drinks and left.
And I don't film it or nothing.
And that wasn't even the last of his awful spending sprees. You see, he also had to pay $100,000 to the government for disturbing the peace back in December of 2017. At first, he expressed online that he wanted to meet with his fans over at Redlands, California. So he took to Twitter and posted this: if you live in the Inland Empire / LA area and want to meet me tonight, pull up to this address at 7:30. However, this meetup quickly went south because hundreds of people actually showed up to see Lil Xan, disrupting the roads, which led to cars being damaged. In other words, it caused a riot and even turned the place into an actual safety hazard. What makes the situation wild is that Lil Xan expected only a small crowd, but once fans got word of what was happening, the meetup swelled to around 2,000 people, which led him to having to get escorted out of the area, as it could have turned into a stampede. So, did Lil Xan regret his actions? Well, not really, because in an interview after the meetup, he argued,
I gave like a 4-hour notice. I was heading to my hometown, so I tweeted a location, and then I just expected, like 50 people to show up. That's just how I am. I got there, and this video's on YouTube. It's like 2,000 people.
However, it wasn't all fun and games, because even though nobody was technically hurt, the authorities and government actually had to spend resources to try and get Lil Xan to safety. That included sending out a couple helicopters while deploying officers to the scene. And of course, they weren't going to let him get away with just a slap on the wrist.
I got fined because a lot of damages to cars and streets.
Really?
Yeah,
nice.
And the helicopters came out, and it's like 10 grand every helicopter. It was like Project X with the.
It was a $100K bill.
Paying $100,000 in fines after disrupting the peace is wild. Throughout his entire career, he always had issues when it came to money, and it really didn't help that after releasing just one album by that point in his career, he was spending his advance like crazy. But anyways, after he released Total Xanarchy, plenty of fans still crossed their fingers and hoped that they would get another Lil Xan album or project in the future. So when he promised to release a project titled Be Safe to honor the death of Mac Miller, someone who he always had the utmost respect for, fans were very happy.
Who's like your biggest inspiration in terms of rapping?
Mac Miller.
In fact, Mac's passing actually affected his ability to make music due to how devastated he was at his idol's passing. In an interview with MadeinTYO on No Jumper, Xan talked about the tragedy.
Legit crying like in my crib, like this ain't true, bro. Like Mac did not overdose. Mac's still alive. Mac's still here. I just saw Mac 2 weeks ago. When your hero dies, I don't want to make music no more.
He then hopped on Instagram Live while crying about Mac's passing.
I just met his family too. Like I just went to his last show. That was my favorite artist. Rest in peace to Mac.
Xan even had a Memento Mori tattoo on his face to honor Mac's passing. However, unfortunately for his fans, all of this made him feel like he didn't want to make music anymore. But not for long, because after a while, Lil Xan picked himself back up and hyped fans up for the album. He named it Be Safe because those are allegedly Mac Miller's last words to him. And despite everything he had dropped since Total Xanarchy being a total flop, fans still had their hopes up. However, Be Safe, the album, would never actually see the light of day. He kept moving the release date around until it was finally revealed that the album would be scrapped. But not releasing music was the least of Xan's problems, as a month after that, he found himself getting into an altercation at a Taco Bell in Indiana. And this wasn't just an issue of Lil Xan scoring up with someone at a fast food restaurant, because what he said to the customer was crazy. Yeah, he slipped up and dropped the word. And while he explained that he was just emotional at Mac Miller's passing, being openly racist like that in public is diabolical, and as you can expect, a ton of fans called him out for it. However, nothing ever really happened as a result of this, and the issue was already water under the bridge by 2019. What this wasn't the first instance of was Lil Xan mourning the loss of a fellow rapper through questionable methods. Because once news broke out that Lil Peep also passed away, Xan did something that really angered Peep fans. What's the decision, you may ask? Well, it's because he posted this picture on Instagram. Now, at first, it might look like a normal photo of Lil Xan posted up with Lil Peep. However, this picture isn't real. That's right, he edited himself side by side with Lil Peep and posted it online with the caption, "Yes, this is photoshopped, and no, I did not do this shit for clout, but all I have been thinking about is how we lost one of the greatest of our time." And although he admitted that the photo was in fact photoshopped while dropping a disclaimer that he wasn't doing it to chase clout, Lil Peep fans felt otherwise. Although there were many comments mourning Peep while clowning Lil Xan, there was this one particular comment that called him and all his homies out for allegedly selling substances in California back in the day. F Xanxiety, those lames sold fentanyl pills. And instead of addressing the comment maturely, Xan instead replied by saying, "I hope one of your homies passed off those pills." This was incredibly insensitive and ironic, considering that he was just mourning the passing of Peep in the same post, who passed away through the same method. But he wasn't done there. After the fan elaborated about how dangerous the pills were, he instead doubled down and wrote, "You're right, I'm sorry, I'm gonna look out my penthouse window right now and cry for this. Can you do me a favor though? Can you go run to your kitchen and see if you have any top ramen and Kool-Aid? I'm kind of hungry, but if not, it's cool." And at that point, fans were starting to get impatient, as they felt he was more focused on beefing than making music. And they were right, he didn't drop anything. In fact, his list of beefs included Tandem Mojo, a once famous YouTuber, getting into a fight with influencer Supreme Patty, and feuding with Jumex, a rapper many consider an obvious industry plant and just bad musician. And not only did these feuds and squabbles impact Lil Xan's image more negatively than it already was, it also stopped him from actually getting in the booth and picking up the microphone. But the worst beef of all was when Lil Xan started beefing with his then manager, Stat Quo.
Do you guys remember the whole Lil Peep, the story where his management was giving him drugs? Well, that happened to me on tour.
After saying that he also went through the same experience as Lil Peep, he proceeded to name drop Stat Quo and accuse him of supplying him with substances.
And his name, my manager's name, Stat Quo. Remember that name, Stat Quo, because when I was on tour through 2018 to 2000 whatever, the world tours with Nicki and Juice and all that, I was back then, right? And my manager was supplying me with the drugs.
Even for someone like Lil Xan, this accusation was wild, because you've got to understand, Stat Quo wasn't only a manager, he was also a pretty good rapper back in the day, and as I mentioned earlier, he was one of the reasons why Lil Xan blew up in the first place. So how did Xan pay Stat Quo back for his efforts in making him a successful artist? He painted him in a bad light and pinned the downfall of his career on his manager. Even MadeinTYO, who was an avid fan and frequent collaborator of Lil Xan, had to give his 2 cents and proceeded to call him out once he unfollowed No Jumper.
Alright, so we did the news earlier today and we talked about the whole Lil Xan calling out his manager, Stat Quo, his ex-manager, saying that he had him hooked on drugs or wanted to keep him hooked on drugs or whatever. And
Adam was hesitant to say anything at first.
You know, I'm cool with Lil Xan, so I felt like I was trying to kind of play both sides and not go fully in, but I just noticed that Lil Xan unfollowed me and No Jumper, so I figured why hold back?
But he didn't mince his words and told him to get his act together, even citing his own first-hand experience of how much Stat Quo propped him up into a huge name in hip-hop.
Anyway, this is what I gotta say. Xan, you gotta stop playing the victim, because I was up close and personal, granted for the whole time, but for plenty of the with you and Stat, and I saw nothing but him trying to push you in the right direction to make smart moves with your career. I saw him use his vast network of connects to get you collabs with artists like YG and all these people that were not going to do songs with you otherwise.
Adam also added that,
and I just wholeheartedly do not believe for a second that Stat Quo wanted you up on at all. I know for a fact he wanted the best for your career.
However, the beef between him and his manager goes deeper. You remember the black Mercedes G-Wagon that he keyed earlier? Well, it turns out that the car played a key role in their relationship's fallout, because accusing Stat of supplying him with substances wasn't his only problem after all. You see, that G-Wagon was bought on a loan, and because of that, the car had $30,000 left to pay off before Stat Quo was legally allowed to give the car to Lil Xan. But there was a problem. You see, he thought that he had already paid enough for the car throughout the years and refused to pay the final $30,000 fee. To make matters worse, Xan even argued that Stat should be the one who paid the final fee for the release of the car, and when Stat refused to do so, he ended up selling the car while releasing Lil Xan from his management. And Xan believing that Stat Quo should pay the final installment so he could finally own a car was wild. Sounded like he had a hard time committing to a lot of things. Case in point, for example, his rap career and paying off his car loan. But speaking of his inability to commit to things, he had a hard time sticking to a schedule, whether it was because of his many beefs, his substance abuse issues, or just not wanting to be on the road to perform. And his issues when it came to tours were there ever since he blew up. He used all kinds of excuses to cancel multiple shows, just like that one time where he stopped touring to allegedly focus on the Mac Miller tribute album, which never came out. But as innocent as that was, this next instance is even crazier. Someone who went by the name of Vlad HQ, a rapper who threatened him by uploading a video of letting shots off with his. He warned Lil Xan that he wanted all the smoke at his concert and hinted at pulling up to catch him lacking. Vlad HQ also posted a photo online holding a lot of firearms, threatening him once again with the caption, "Hi Lil Xan, see you later at your show." Because of that, the concert was cancelled while authorities launched an investigation into Vlad HQ for his actions. And while we can't exactly blame Lil Xan for cancelling the show out of concern for his own safety, this next incident is hilariously absurd. See, in the build-up towards the Total Xanarchy tour, something unexpected happened to him, as he posted a photo of himself in an ambulance on Instagram. While others feared that their favorite rapper was a victim of a drive-by, another group of teenage Tupac lovers, or that he finally kicked the bucket and OD'd, the reason for it was laughable at best, as he explained the situation saying, "I was in the hospital not due to any substances, but I guess I ate too many hot Cheetos." Fans all over the world thought he was just trolling and used the Cheetos excuse as a cover art. I mean, after all, who would get hospitalized for such an insane reason? But it turns out, they definitely overestimated Lil Xan, as when a TMZ reporter interviewed him on the streets to get his side of the story, he said this.
You had people scared, you had your fans scared a little bit the other night. Tell me what actually went down.
You're referencing the Cheeto thing, right?
The Cheeto Gate, 2018.
He then walked the reporter through a step-by-step process as to how he basically lost the battle against the bag of Cheetos.
Ban these things. No, I'm just kidding. I'm a big Cheeto fan, a hot Cheeto fan. My stomach's still not completely better yet. I literally was just one bag. It was just one bag. Ate it. I was drinking soda. I have a really poor diet. And next thing I know, for 4 days, I was feeling really bad.
After he felt queasy from eating them, what did he do? Open another bag.
Stomach aches. Then I ate another bag of the chili lemon ones, and literally I vomited a little blood.
Point, while Lil Xan still had many fans hoping to hear another Lil Xan album, his issues kept him from making music, and his many beefs, altercations, and distractions from being a rapper definitely held his career back. However, he didn't give up and actually tried to make a comeback in 2022, announcing yet another tour with the metal band known as Dropout Kings on Twitter, writing, "I'm going back on tour, the Born Undead tour coming to a city near you, with direct support from @Dropout Kings." Turns out, it didn't matter which city fans were going to show up to, because he did something unbelievably crazy. After Dropout Kings traveled halfway across the country to meet up with Lil Xan to kick off the tour, the rapper made a shocking decision. He dropped out of the tour last minute. Band announced it online by saying, "Lil Xan dropped off the tour after everyone already left cross country, didn't show up for his set at So What. We're rebooking this entire tour, stay tuned, please bear with us. Also, F Lil Xan." Instead of canceling the tour altogether, Dropout Kings announced on Instagram that they were doing their best to still make it happen. "We are trying to save any show we can and perform for y'all." And of course, they didn't hide their animosity towards Lil Xan one bit. Straight up F Lil Xan, 100%, I don't even care. Dude is a total piece of shit for doing this to all the artists and staff involved in this, decided to do this to everyone after already leaving for tour, then doesn't even show up to set for So What Fest. Still, even though their headliner dropped out, the band persevered and wanted to keep the tour going. So, although Lil Xan's fans were bummed, other people were actually quite supportive of the band, with some even being thankful for his absence. As far as I'm concerned, the tour just got better. A longer Dropout Kings set, and no Lil Xan. In response to that, Dropout Kings even renamed the tour to F Lil Xan. So, you're probably asking, why did Lil Xan decide to drop out? Well, he explained his decision in a post where he wrote that the band's booking agent was the reason why it canceled. He also taunted them by saying, "But have fun on tour, fellas. My next tour is for my fans only, not yours. Want to give them better openers and more Xanarchy." Yeah, if you haven't already realized it by now, Lil Xan was a bit of a douche to them. He later added in a separate post, that he felt that the management and booking agents were trying to take advantage of him, stating, "Your team did not have any accommodation or travel or anything a tour should have. I just wanted to promote your homies under my name, and we try to make it work, but your team obviously is new at this." And that's not all. He also told the brand that they would later regret burning bridges with him, which is pretty funny considering that he's less relevant with each year that passes by. However, it wasn't all bad news when it came to Lil Xan, because around that time, he proudly announced that he's finally sober and was taking steps in order to maintain his sobriety. In another interview with his favorite podcaster, MadeinTYO, Xan spoke about the exact moment when he realized that he had to change his way of life.
And I looked at myself in the mirror and like, I don't know if it was just me, but I could start seeing like the lines, you know, when you get like real skinny or like, you know, when you see someone like that, like a tweaker kind of.
According to him, that was the final straw for him, as he knew he couldn't go on living like that.
You know, when you see someone like that, like a tweaker kind of, and I was like, oh, I can't go out like this, you know, like this is, I've been bad before, but this is like really bad. Like I'm gonna die like very, very soon. And I went cold turkey and I had like a few seizures.
He also added how scared he was for his life and how these seizures acted as a terrifying wake-up call for him to get his act together.
Committed fully. It all changed after I had those seizures, and that like it was a near-death experience, you know, really kind of messed me up for that time.
Was that your rock bottom?
Yeah. I mean, maybe a couple days before, but definitely, yeah, that's my rock bottom was the seizures. You know, it was a
credit to him, as he still maintains that he hasn't touched any substances ever since. And of course, since he doesn't have that type of distraction anymore, he was able to finally make music the way he wanted to. And on September 6, 2024, he finally dropped his second album titled Diego, but this time opting to release it independently. The craziest part was that this was his first album in over 6 years after Total Xanarchy was released in 2018. So how did fans feel about it? Well, the reception was quite mixed and few, considering that he had already lost 99% of interest that anyone had in him years ago. But still, what would you know? Everyone agreed it was trash. So, despite resolving his long-term substance issues and finally releasing a little bit of music, Lil Xan seemed like he was on a great path. However, what happened after this album releasing showed he hadn't exactly matured that much. You see, in one of his shows in 2024, Xan went viral and was back in the news again, but not for good reasons. You see, it began with him arguing with one of his fans in the front row, who flipped him off. This escalated the situation and ended with Lil Xan the man in the face, causing him to fall back down. But he wasn't done there. He also threw the microphone at him and even in the head. Afterwards, security personnel quickly removed Lil Xan from the edge of the stage, lifting his 5'6" frame off the ground, only for him to start fighting with the bouncer, who eventually in front of the crowd. But still, did Lil Xan do all that after being flipped off once? Well, according to him, the fan was quite inappropriate with him. He accused him of touching him while he was performing, blaming the fan's alleged essay as the reason why he attacked him. To make it worse, the victim was a Harvard University sophomore and was looking to take this case to court, meaning that Xan might have to face assault and battery charges for his actions. However, while Lil Xan's falloff can be contributed to his constant substance abuse, this next rapper faced a similar reliance on substance issues, but his story took a much darker turn. I'm talking about none other than Famous Dex. Growing up in the streets of Chirac, Famous Dex did not have an easy life. He started moving substances and gangbanging as early as 12 years old.
Hell yeah, I was gangbanging. How old were you when you started banging? I was 12, 13.
However, despite his connections to the GDs, or Gangster Disciples, he actually prioritized his rap career over those affiliations. He went on to put himself on the radar of almost every hip-hop fan on the planet with his breakout song titled Drip From My Walk. From there, he realized just how far he had come as a rapper and had his sights set on a lucrative deal.
Drip From My Walk song. I did that song. I heard it on the radio in Chicago, broke out tears.
And he was right, because in March of 2016, Rich the Kid announced that he was going to start his own record label named Rich Forever Music. Interestingly enough, once he inked the deal, Dex said that this was like that time when Lil Wayne signed Drake.
Wayne signed Drake. Look at Drake and Wayne. People better stop playing me, bro. I don't play, bro. I'm a dog, bro, you know what I'm saying?
So with the bag secured, Dex felt unstoppable, and who could blame him? After all, he was the epitome of SoundCloud rap and everything it stood for back in the day. Colorful dreads, wavy beats, and rapping about basically nothing. So did he continue doing his thing and finally find mainstream success in the long run? Well, not exactly. You see, in the same year he signed his deal, Dex was accused of a crime so disturbing that it would negatively affect his career and undo all the hard work he had put in. In September of 2016, Famous Dex faced allegations of assault after a video of a young man who was allegedly him, a woman in a hallway, appeared, and it got much worse for Dex. See, the entire footage of the crime was caught on CCTV, which meant that he couldn't even deny the allegations or pretend that he was innocent. And for obvious reasons, I can't show the footage here on YouTube. This incident caused a lot of fans to turn his back on him. But fan backlash wasn't the only thing Famous Dex had to worry about. At the time, he was on the verge of being canceled, Most of the events he was scheduled to perform at saw fans calling for his removal, and brands were starting to cut ties with him. In response, he took to Twitter and tried to justify his horrific actions by saying that he wasn't perfect and that the reason they fought was because she allegedly cheated on him. Tweeting, "God no, I'm sorry for fight. She wasn't hurt. I cut my..." Like, what? Not like that. She cheated on me and she was wrong. God no, and me and my girl was fighting. Okay y'all, stuff happened. I'm not perfect, but God no, would probably God no. Now, most people had no idea what he meant, but you can make out that they had a fight, his girl cheated, and God does in fact know. To make matters worse, he got mad at the fact that the footage was leaked in the first place, saying that it was a matter of privacy.
This is my personal life. That ain't supposed to have been out. Somebody recorded that. You know what I'm saying? That's my personal business.
He later stated that he'd never do such a thing, despite being caught on camera.
People go through that in life, but you don't put your hands on no female at all. I have two daughters, I love them, you know what I'm saying?
However, that wasn't the end of the repercussions that he had to deal with in light of the essay. See, he also missed a gigantic opportunity for his career due to it. Because when the 2017 XXL freshman class was announced, fans were quick to point out his obvious absence, considering how he was more famous than 70% of the list. XXL actually experienced backlash for snubbing him, which made him address the situation on Instagram Live, telling fans to stop disrespecting them.
Just represent me, y'all. Please don't stop disrespecting XXL. Please, just stop disrespecting XXL. Congratulate them folks, man. It's life, y'all. What about next year?
XXL editor-in-chief Vanessa Satin went on to explain that the reason why he wasn't invited to be a part of the class in an interview with the Breakfast Club was this.
So basically, Famous Dex didn't make it because of that video of him being the girl.
I guess if you want to put it that way. I mean, I guess if you want to put it that way.
The thing is, he wasn't the only one who had these types of allegations at the time. XXXTentacion was also facing similar accusations as well. The only difference was that Famous Dex was caught on camera.
Listen, you can argue either way. You can say X has got issues and you can say that Famous Dex has issues.
Yeah.
I think the difference with Famous Dex having it on camera creates a different situation.
After hearing this, he lashed out at XXL CEO on Instagram Live.
That's why I didn't make XXL, because that video of my girl, that's the reason why you could come up with that? That lady, that lady right there, ma'am, you too disrespectful.
He also added,
"Bitch, you just had my son. You talking about, you fat bitch. You could at least say congratulations in that interview."
But it wasn't just on the music side of things that Famous Dex was negatively affected. He lost lucrative brand deals as well, most notably a collaboration with Puma. A fan made a tweet tagging the company asking if they still wanted him to represent their brand, and Puma wasted no time putting distance between them and Dex by responding with, "Hello Rhonda, Puma does not condone any acts of violence towards women. We do not, nor will we have any relationship with Famous Dex." He tried to mitigate the damage by uploading several photos and images of him and his girlfriend at the hospital after she gave birth to their son, explaining that the relationship was stronger now after what happened.
Man, she been here on my side. We've been through ups and downs. You know what I'm saying? We stick around each other. Like, the real relationships knows how I feel.
To add to that, Dex decided to flood his fans with music in the hopes that it would slowly make fans forget about his horrible actions over time. And to his credit, his strategy worked out, as in 2017, he went above and beyond, releasing 18 music videos in the span of just 7 months, successfully uncanceling himself. However, Dex had other problems. You see, this was around the time when his reliance on substances, specifically lean, finally took a toll. See, he drank way too much and was taken to the hospital. And afterwards, he went live on Instagram, making the bold claim,
"I quit codeine. I don't do the no more. That's on my kids. You know what I'm saying? You would never ever see me with a double cup. You know what I'm saying? It f***ed me up. I'm in the hospital right now. But I feel so better. I feel so good. God is so good."
Afterwards, it felt like God himself heard him, because once his stint at the hospital was over, he went right back in the studio and landed a feature from none other than A$AP Rocky himself. The song Pick It Up was already massive, but when the music video dropped, that's when Famous Dex realized he had truly made it in hip hop. Pick It Up was his first song to chart on Billboard, peaking at number 54 and going platinum as well, but he wasn't done there. He dropped another song, Japan, which was an even bigger hit, peaking at number 28 on the charts and also going platinum. So with all of that momentum, Famous Dex dropped his debut album, Dex Meets Dexter, in April of 2018. The album did alright, peaking at number 12 on Billboard, but what was really impressive about it was that it had unanimous praise from fans all over the world. Been waiting on Dex to drop a project that really impressed me instead of sporadic singles and inconsistent projects that varied wildly in quality. I think he finally did it. But while he was on top of the world, Dex's vices behind the scenes soon began to affect his output, as he slowed down dropping new projects and got complacent with his recent success. He was frequently spotted on his own Instagram live streams appearing high as a kite.
I'm so high. Man, I'm high than a motherfucker, daddy. I ain't gonna lie, boy, I'm higher than a motherfucker, daddy.
And there are plenty more videos of him in that state, just like the time where he passed out live on camera due to substance use. This incident quickly went viral as fans mocked him for it. He responded in another Instagram live addressing the viral video where he lashed out at fans and others who tried to make fun of him, saying,
For once, I'm a human being and I work my ass off, but don't let the world trick you and be fooled. I always know, because only you know, you. Not my manager, not anybody, you know you. You know what I'm saying?
Dex also said that he didn't fall asleep due to substances and that it was due to him being so tired from being in the studio for so long. But his substance use wasn't the only worrying sign, because a week later, he allegedly pulled out a firearm around his fans. According to reports, the rapper Famous Dex allegedly pulled a gun on UC Irvine students after the concert he was playing at the university was cancelled because of his stage dive. To make it worse, campus police also texted students and posted a message to social media warning that a 25-year-old 5'11" man had been spotted with a near the campus center. The age and height matched those listed online for Dex. But why did he even flash a firearm in the first place? Well, it was because he tried to leap into the crowd, which caused a major stampede. Due to that, a university spokesperson explained that university police on site declared it was a dangerous situation, so they turned on the lights and canceled the rest of the show. Furthermore, despite the situation in UC Irvine, it was clear that Dex's substance abuse was getting to a dangerous point that he might not be able to come back from, because in one of his shows, he suffered a seizure during a performance. And his fans weren't the only ones concerned, as his label was also worried that his reliance on narcotics might affect his musical output. So they tried to check him into rehab, and as you can expect, their efforts to get him to stop using substances amounted to nothing, because as soon as he was checked in, he would stop participating in the program after only a month. Despite that, he kept on releasing songs here and there. However, his new releases just weren't hitting the same. So, seeing that he wasn't getting the same amount of attention as he was used to, did Dex lock in and focus on making great music? Well, not really. In fact, he did everything but that. For example, one time, he decided to beef with Rich the Kid, the same rapper that he was signed to.
Not rich forever. I am signed to 300. Rich the Kid, selfish is trying to sell Rich Forever 4. You're not trying to get me and J. Chris shit.
And his beef didn't stop at airing Rich the Kid out. He also had a heated exchange online with Soulja Boy, which resulted in this iconic clip of the two yelling at each other on Instagram Live.
I put Famous Dex on, bro. You know what I'm saying? I was the first artist to with him in LA, bro. You know what I'm saying? He flew to LA, came and stayed at my house. He met Rich the Kid at my house.
Soulja Boy never in his life ever changed shit of my life.
Soulja then went on to expose his DMs with Famous Dex, where the latter asked him to hop on a track with him.
Then why the fuck is your bitch ass been in my DMs since I came home from jail? I don't even respond to you.
But after years of not dropping a project, Famous Dex finally looked like he was going to release one. And on October 9th of 2020, he did just that, dropping his second studio album, Diana, which was named after his late mother. Honestly, the album wasn't bad by any means, as fans loved it, and some even mentioned how he sounded much better on this project. So with fans loving Diana, how were the sales looking? While his last album, Dex Meets Dexter, was a commercial success that ended up certified gold, with hit singles going platinum, this one went triple cardboard, only selling 4,000 copies in its first week. Not to mention, the album had no song that did commercially well. And his downfall only got worse from there, as afterwards, he got hit with 19 charges, including domestic violence and gun possession, stemming from 3 separate instances. Shockingly, 2 of these instances involved his ex-girlfriend, who back in November had cops say that they responded to a domestic disturbance call at his home and found a woman with on her. As we reported at the time, this led to a SWAT standoff. And the situation only escalated to that point because Famous Dex barricaded himself with firearms after causing harm to his ex. That's not all. He also got really physical with a different woman a month prior to that, which led to him being hit with more charges, including domestic, threatening a domestic partner, exhibiting a firearm, inflicting, dissuading a victim from reporting a crime, defacing property, and illegal possession of a firearm. So at this point, he was stacking more criminal charges than album sales, which was really sad to see considering how large Dex could have been if he just stayed focused on making music. And after those 3 disturbing charges, he was once again arrested in March of 2021 for charges. During the search, our sources say a loaded gun was found under Dex's seat, though he was arrested for carrying a concealed firearm. But while we're on the topic of squandered potential and careers that fell off too soon, it'd be a mistake not to include one of the faces of SoundCloud rap. See, much like most other rappers in this list, Lil Skies was everywhere during the peak of SoundCloud rap. and with hit songs in 2017 like Red Roses and Nowadays, you'd have to be living under a rock during that time to not hear about him. I mean, he was huge. His first breakout single, Red Roses, released in October of 2017 with the Lyrical Lemonade music video, exploded from day one, and today the video has over 200 million views. But Skies wasn't even close to done yet that year. In December, he dropped Nowadays, which took him from a hot SoundCloud act to a mainstream rapper. Today, it's not only platinum, it sits at over 350 million views. So things are looking sweet for Lil Skies. He had 2 hit songs, had become famous almost overnight, and was one of the faces of a scene that was revolutionizing hip hop. So what could go wrong? But like every famous rapper, drama followed Lil Skies. You see, back when it was confirmed that XXXTentacion tragically lost his life, some fans chose to remember him fondly, but others took a different approach and said that Lil Skies should have been the one who passed away instead. As messed up as that may sound, he later addressed the issue on an Instagram story where he lashed out at all unhinged fans who thought that X should have lived instead of him. To make it worse, he also added that he easily could have been in X's position, as he was a victim of a robbery attempt and that he almost lost his life.
I do not care, bro, and that's facts. I'm gonna tell y'all something, bro. So I'm looking at the Academics video. He sharing me about my story about niggas trying to rob me in LA.
He then paid his respects to X.
Rest in peace, my brother. I didn't even get on the internet and say my connection with bro, because that's my bro. I already know.
And it almost was like he couldn't believe that X fans wished death upon him like that.
And y'all are wishing that I wasn't dead instead of somebody else? Bro, I don't wish X was dead. Like, what the f?
And the hate was brutal. Imagine thousands of fans openly saying that they would rather see you gone instead of another artist. But despite being disrespected by fans who wanted him to take X's place in the morgue, Lil Skies still didn't let that distract him from making music. He put in work and proceeded to drop a follow-up album to his breakthrough mixtape, Life of Dark Rose, a year later. The album was named Shelby, dedicated to his mother and a tribute to all the hard times he'd gone through so far. And it was definitely worth the effort, because the project turned into Lil Skies' best performing album to date, after selling 50,000 copies first week while peaking at number 5 on the Billboard charts. Years later, the album was eventually certified gold by RIAA after selling more than 500,000 units. However, despite being Lil Skies' best-selling album, some fans felt that it was actually underwhelming, with others pointing out how similar the song sounded compared to his first few projects and mixtapes. What really kills me with it is his flow/tone on a lot of the songs. It literally sounds like his debut a lot of the time. And that's a bad thing because his debut had all the same flow. He really needs a new flow. In other words, fans were disappointed with Skies' lack of growth. But around that time, Skies had more pressing matters to address, like his music being leaked and uploaded on his own fan pages without his permission.
Yo, I'm on this to say to the fan pages that is leaking my shit, suck my dick and you, nigga. I'm not playing with none of y'all, bro. On God, y'all is not real fans, bro. To the, what's that? Hey, bro, pull up, what's that? Pull it up real quick, bro.
After that, he went on to name drop fan pages that uploaded leaked material of his music.
Skies Hub, what? Skies Updates, Skies Hub, Skies Updates. Y'all go report that. Skies Hub, Skies Updates. Go report that. What else, bro? What else is the other one? Lil Skies repost some shit. Stop releasing my cover art, you bitch ass nigga, yo. Stop doing that shit, bro. On God, what's...
He also questioned their actions and asked them what kind of fans they were as they willingly leaked their artist's cover art and songs.
What type of fan? Like what? Y'all, oh, this is the cover art. Y'all releasing cover arts to songs y'all don't even know that come out and shit.
Finally, he resorted to calling the hackers out and telling them where he lived so he could square up with them in real life.
Whoever is hacked into my shit, bro, come see me, nigga. I live in Waynesboro. Come see me, nigga. Come see me, bro. On God. I will shit one of you niggas. Stupid ass. I don't give a fuck about this internet shit. None of that shit. Stop ruining the fun. Y'all niggas ruin the fun for everybody, bro. Everybody. Like y'all ruin it for the real fans.
Skies also added that these types of leakers ruin the fun for everyone as he threatened to stop releasing music if this issue persisted.
Stop doing lame shit, nigga, or I won't release shit. On God, I won't release nothing, nigga. Stop releasing my shit. Y'all ruin it for my fans. To the niggas that's releasing it and doing that, y'all is not my fans, bro. So y'all can unfollow me, do all that lame shit, talk what the you want to talk. I don't give a f.
He explained how the leaks were messing up his money and how it was affecting his ability to provide for both his family and his collaborators. Because as we all know in hip hop, whenever a song gets leaked, it's a double-edged sword, as sometimes it builds up hype, but more often than not, it just gets rid of all anticipation surrounding a project's release.
Y'all need to stop sitting behind computers typing lame shit, posting. Bro, I have a son. This is how I make money. This is how I take care of my family. Do not play with me, bro, because I will die behind this shit. On God, stop playing with me.
He then explained that he wasn't the only one affected whenever something gets leaked.
Yo, for real, stop releasing my shit. Stop ruining the fun. You feel me? I got my niggas in here like this. I'm with my day one every day, bro. They doing music, they doing their thing. I'm working with everybody, trying to make everybody grow, and y'all is
ruining it.
But anyways, after the release of his album Shelby, Lil Skies began balancing fatherhood while still working on music, and with his focus split, he wasn't naturally as active or in the spotlight, and as a result, he flew under everyone's radar during that time. Of course, he didn't exactly disappear, as he was moving at his own pace while raising his son, dropping a couple of tracks here and there, including Having My Way, which featured Lil Durk. However, after fans listened to the tracks he released in 2020, many felt that Lil Skies was drifting away from the signature sound that made him popular. As a result, there was some sentiment online that called for the return of the old Lil Skies, and he saw the comments and addressed them, saying, "Y'all gotta stop wishing I was the same person and made the same music. That's not all." He also explained how he's consistently evolving both as a human being and as an artist. "When I came in this game, I'm a human being. I'm growing and changing too. I can't be that same person I was 3 years ago. My life on a whole other type of time now. This be my last time addressing this." Guys also pointed out how he was ridiculed for sounding the same on each release, and when he finally switched it up, he took further backlash for some reason. Y'all get on here and attack artists for not making the same song over and over again. We people too. And personally, I make what I feel. Cause we wanna try different sounds, we wrong? Nah. Anyways, love to all my real supporters, y'all know the vibes. So he was in a lose-lose situation at that point. If he stuck to the same style, people would call him repetitive, but the moment he experimented with something different, fans complained that they wanted the old Lil Skies back. So no matter what he did, someone had an issue with it, meaning there was no way of him winning at all. A month after that, Skies dropped his second studio album titled Unbothered, which only sold 15,000 copies in its first week, a far cry from how much Shelby sold just prior to that. So, the album was widely known as a monumental flop for standards. But even with the low sales numbers, the album still managed to reach the top 50 on the Billboard charts. And once you look at the reviews, it's not exactly surprising why. I feel like this album is an example of an artist not progressing whatsoever. Skies has had the same exact sound, which has gotten very boring. And I loved Life of Dark Rose. So what happened? Well, it wasn't really that great of an album, although it had big names on the feature list like Lil Durk and Wiz Khalifa. Those features didn't help move copies from the shelves. Not only that, he allegedly had issues with his label Atlantic Records behind the scenes, which is apparently why there was little to no marketing for Unbothered. The album relied on Lil Skies' fanbase to carry the load without any additional effort in enticing new fans to his music. So you could argue that it was one of the reasons why he quote-unquote fell off. 4 months after Unbothered's release, he decided to drop a deluxe version of the album with 5 new songs and additional features from Trippie Redd and Draco the Ruler. But it still wasn't enough to thread the needle between him making a good project and improving his sales numbers. So, knowing Lil Skies, he saw the negative comments about Unbothered online and decided to address it on Instagram, writing, "Y'all asked for it and I delivered, but I wonder why y'all act like anything I do is never enough. You wanted new music and I gave you that. Anything y'all pretty much want, I do at this point." He basically told fans that he was doing what they wanted him to do, which was to drop more music, although it didn't exactly reach the success that he was accustomed to. "It's up to y'all to rock my stuff. Sorry I'm not a big internet person. I really don't like this place at all, but for y'all I stepped completely out of my comfort zone. Hope y'all enjoy the project. I can't ever win." At this point, you could clearly tell that all the criticism was definitely taking a toll on him. But still, Lil Skies had a solid fan base supporting him as he continued to drop music. And fast forward to 2022, he was still selling out shows and getting booked for festivals. For example, on Rolling Loud Toronto, he shared the stage with major artists such as Future. Meaning, even though his music wasn't exactly hitting the same as before, he was still getting invited to large events. But when it was finally his turn to take the stage, to say that fans weren't exactly feeling his performances would be an understatement. For example, while performing one of his songs, the crowd just stood there, bored out of their minds. And after seeing the crowd in that state, Lil Skies got so pissed that he called them out, saying,
"You just come here and stand like this. Y'all look weird as
After reminding the crowd that they didn't drop all that money on a Rolling Loud ticket to just stand around, he tried to amp them up, telling them to bring the energy as he continued to perform.
Turn the f up. You are not too cool to jump. Turn the fuck up. Fuck all that weak.
And kudos to him, after he called out fans and said that they were weirdos for just standing around during his performance, they actually got turned. But this video clip went viral and made him look horrible. But to make matters worse, Skies also cut ties with his record label, which meant that he no longer had their backing and only hurt his marketing even more.
One thing y'all gotta know is now your boy is independent, bruh. I'm fully independent, just me. You feel me? I ain't get dropped by my label, no crazy shit, nothing like that, bro. No, I'm independent. It's my choice. I'm independent.
After he repeatedly claimed that he left the label on his own, he later said that he's now free to drop music anytime.
So now, Skizzy can do what Skizzy wanna do, bruh. I'm dropping what I wanna drop. I'm doing what I wanna do, bro. I don't give a f.
But even though Lil Skies was independent now, it didn't mean that drama still eluded him. because after uploading a picture of his brand new face tattoo, he found himself in a beef with a fellow rapper. However, this wasn't just any ordinary face tat. According to fans, he directly copied the design from another rapper named Sauce Moolah, sparking accusations that he ripped off Sauce Moolah's signature look. If you want to see how Sauce Moolah's tattoos look like, here's some pictures. You see, after Lil Skies showed off his tattoo, fans dropped comments like Big Sleaze did it first, while others reinforced it by tagging Sauce Moolah on the post. And when Sauce Moolah saw this, he quickly called Lil Skies out by dropping a comment saying, "Looks just like my scar tat, lil bro." He also uploaded a photo of him with the tattoo on Instagram, writing, "They want to be like Big Sleaze so bad." And he didn't stop there. He also said, "I hate this generation, nobody's original anymore." This was obviously a bad look for Lil Skies, because at this point in his career, he was already known for experimenting with rage-inspired tracks, a sound that Sauce Moolah and his camp were more known for. So when fans noticed the similarities, it only added fire to the accusations that Lil Skies was biting their entire style, from their music to the aesthetic. Still, Skies ignored the background noise and proceeded to drop his mixtape titled Out Your Body Music, and guess what? It flopped horribly, selling absolutely nothing. As if things couldn't get worse for him, Skies was also involved in something horrible just a few days before he released the mixtape.
A Franklin County man known under the rapper name Lil Skies is facing charges today. Police say feuds was arrested on May 20th after they say he was involved in a crash and failed to stop and exchange information.
He was arrested 2 months later for the hit and run. According to the article, Skies allegedly sped away in his vehicle after the collision without exchanging information with the person in the other car. As of now, he still regularly releases music, but it's not exactly hard to say that his career panned out very poorly, considering that he was one of the faces of SoundCloud rap back in the day. But just 5 years ago, there was another SoundCloud rapper you couldn't escape, Lil Mosey, whose hit song Blueberry Faygo was everywhere. Social media, parties, the Billboard charts, peaking at number 8. Lil Mosey was everywhere, but he wasn't an overnight success. After going viral on YouTube as a teenager with his song Pull Up, gaining millions of views, Mosey dropped out and pursued rap full time.
Yeah, I dropped out of 10th grade, but my mom made me go to school and shit, but once I started blowing up a little more on SoundCloud and shit, why am I even going to school? So I said, "F that shit."
And it paid off almost immediately, as in 2018, he dropped Noticed, which would go on to become a huge SoundCloud hit, paired with the lyric Lemonade video. The song charted at number 80 on Billboard, and today, the song sits at over 300 million views. And with that amount of hype backing him up, he was selected to be a part of the XXL freshman class of 2019, together with huge names like DaBaby, Megan Thee Stallion, Gunna, and many more. And while he still had doubters who questioned his placement within the class, Lil Mosey's inclusion showed that he was accepted within the culture itself. XXL was the perfect opportunity for rising rappers to show off their skills, starting off with individual freestyles before moving on to the cyphers. But there's a problem. See, freestyles weren't really his forte. I mean, just take a look at it.
Me and Aor's got a meal again. He hopped in a Wraith and I hopped in a Lamb. Just need new money, don't need no new friends. 2016, turned 5 to a 10. 100 round John shooting in his face now. Pull up on a nigga, I leave him face now. Just got a meal, put it straight in my spray ground. 5 grand wood, smoking straight to my face now. Meet at the projects, we shooting.
Saying he wasn't good at freestyling is an understatement. See, his performance was so rough that fans were commenting things like, "Bro, this dude was speaking cursive." And while most of these were just jokes, some people took it to another level, making it very clear how much they hated Lil Mosey's freestyle. This freestyle is literally the equivalent of a participation award. In his defense, he was self-aware to know that his freestyle was trash, writing, "Not gonna lie, my freestyle was trash. I don't freestyle as y'all can see. I like to write my songs and sing melodies, but I tried and had fun." But if you think this was the end of his humiliation, you'd be wrong. Because only 5 days after he was roasted for his freestyle, that's when the freshman cyphers finally dropped. Even though XXL had been going downhill for years, fans still expected solid cyphers, especially with how stacked his class was. So when Lil Mosey was grouped with Megan Thee Stallion, DaBaby, and YK Osiris, expectations weren't the highest, but not only did he fail to keep up with others, he completely fumbled the cypher.
Goddamn, I feel like the man. Freshman of the year, I woke up like the man. Never popping Xans, cause they me, damn.
After these god-awful bars, he proceeded to call the beat lame, imitating the way Kodak Black did in his iconic 2016 freshman cypher.
Okay, this a lame ass beat. Walk up on your my dick, A-feed.
And as you can imagine, the comments cooked him hard. And even though a couple of years have passed by, fans still come back to the cypher not to listen to other rappers rap, but to make fun of Mosey. It's a tradition to make fun of Mosey's freestyle regularly. Ouch. But despite a disastrous showing in the XXL cypher, Mosey still felt on top of the world. And with that many hits, who could blame him? And Lil Mosey's rise was far from over, as the very next year, he skyrocketed to heights even he hadn't imagined, starting with the leaked song Blueberry Faygo. Now, we all know leaks can be a problem since they can ruin the hype artists build for their releases. But for Lil Mosey, the leaks actually helped and gave his career a boost. See, Blueberry Faygo was already a certified hit without even being released officially. After it was leaked, thousands of people kept uploading the song illegally to SoundCloud and Spotify, which led to a lot of copyright claims and takedowns. Leaks were so crazy that it got over 21 million streams on Spotify before it was finally taken down. And it got to the point where fans had to ask if Blueberry Faygo was ever going to be released at all. Pretty much every single fan of his has heard it. Yeah, he could release it and probably get good streaming numbers, but like someone else said, the time for it has passed. But that fan couldn't have been more wrong. Because when May of 2020 rolled around, Lil Mosey finally dropped the highly anticipated song alongside a Lyrical Lemonade music video. And if he wasn't already a rising hip hop star before, after the song dropped, there was no doubt about it. As I mentioned in the intro, saying the song blew up would be an understatement. Not only did it hit number 8 on the Billboard charts in America, marking Mosey's first top 10 entry. So with the catchiest song of that year, hip-hop fans were eager to hear what he had in store for his next few releases. However, something terrible happened in April of 2021, which prevented Mosey from working on music. You see, according to reports, US rapper Lil Mosey is wanted by police after failing to turn up to court to face a charge. A warrant has been issued for his arrest of the 19-year-old, real name Lathan Eccles from Seattle, whose hit Blueberry Faygo reached the top 10 in both the US and UK last year. And it wasn't just him that was accused of these disturbing charges, as he and his friend allegedly committed the crime. He and another man, Francisco Prater, have been charged with in the second degree. To make it worse for the two, they both failed to appear for a preliminary hearing in Washington on Wednesday. According to reports, they are alleged to have with a woman while she was incapable of giving consent in January. Here's a No Jumper report talking about the allegations as well.
Mosey has reportedly been charged with in the Washington state, and now there's a $50,000 bench warrant issued for his arrest after he failed to appear in court. Mosey reportedly skipped his court appearance on Wednesday.
And because of the nature of the crime and how disturbing the details were surrounding it, Lil Mosey had to take a step back and focus on beating the case before he could jump back into the studio and make music. And even though everyone maintains their innocence until they're proven guilty, missing his court order only made him look more guilty in the process. And fans pointed out, yeah, I was baffled he skipped the court date. Terrible look. Looks like it was all a misunderstanding and he just got gassed hard on social media for it, lol. Another replied saying, terribly hard. The dude found out he had an arrest warrant out for him at the same time as the rest of the world did. So instead of focusing on his rap career and capitalizing off of Blueberry Faygo's tremendous success, Mosey found himself stuck dealing with the legal side of things surrounding the alleged crime. This went on for 2 years, with fans hearing nothing from his camp. And while time passed, so did all the momentum and hype around his music. For a while, fans all over the internet were starving for Mosey's music, but pretty soon, they all forgot about him and moved on to other rappers after his disappearance. Fast forward to 2023, and some good news finally came through. After the accusations and R-word charges, he was found not guilty in the case, and quickly took to Instagram to write, "Spent 2 years of my life going through the storm, and I'm happy to say that God finally brought the truth to light. Thank you." His attorney also stated that his client is completely innocent, having passed 2 lie detector tests, and pointing out that the prosecutors had discredited all prior evidence of any wrongdoing. Mosey has been completely vindicated and didn't deserve to ever be prosecuted. However, even though he was technically innocent after being found not guilty, the damage was already done. The fact that he lost all his momentum just to battle the case was clear, and the blowback to his reputation after the allegations came to light was undeniable. A fan put it perfectly, writing, "Sad. He was popping off with Blueberry Faygo before the allegations, and now that he's cleared, the whole world doesn't care anymore." This was a mega blow for his career. In fact, news of Mosey being found innocent was the first time some people had heard of him in years, unaware that he had been battling legal issues behind the scenes the whole time. And even though he wanted to get back into music, it was an uphill battle for him. He'd have to start from scratch and build momentum out of nowhere. DJ Academics perfectly described the weird state he was stuck in, saying,
"This is one of them tough situations where, like, just honestly, there's no recourse for him, right? So he loses 2 years of his life, traction all out the window. Could Lil Mosey pull another rabbit out the hat with another huge hit song? I don't know, maybe he can."
But you have to understand, if you're an up-and-coming rapper, staying idle and not dropping anything new for even a few months is going to cost you, both in terms of fans and mainstream attention.
But losing 2 years of relevance, because now you gotta like lay low, like he's probably spent maybe millions of dollars in attorney fees, but at least he got his freedom, I guess. But now his life is definitely in turmoil and probably has to pick up the pieces trying to get some money up now.
Mosey himself would later open up and speak about how difficult it was for him to clear his name, knowing he wasn't guilty of anything.
What's it like going through this, seeing everybody on the internet attacking you, trying to bring you down, and you're just sitting there like, oh, it wasn't me? Is it hard to deal with?
For someone as young as he was at the time, the experience definitely took a toll on him.
It's tough because, I didn't know the best way to deal with it. And like I didn't know like if I should like go on the internet and be like, this wasn't me, like da 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 da. And like, so I just I just did the first thing I could think of, and I just deleted Instagram, and I was like, I just gotta stay away from this shit.
He later spoke about not leaving the house for 2 months.
And I didn't leave my house for like 2 months. I didn't leave my house. I was like, and then the first time I left my house, I was like, I forget where I was, but then like people started yelling some shit at me, and I was like, damn. Like,
after isolating himself at home for 2 months, only to be met with backlash the moment he finally built up the courage to step outside, must have been rough.
So I went back in the house. I didn't come out for like another 2 weeks. I was like, wow, this is crazy. Because I couldn't tell how real it was. And then I went outside for the first time.
It was real.
And it was real. So I was like, all right, let me go back inside.
Mosey slowly integrated himself back into society after being a recluse, which gave him the confidence to get his life back on track.
And then like, I don't know, just slowly I just started like, all right, let me just go here, go there. Let me talk to this person. And then I finally started getting over it. But it was tough at first, but I kind of got used to it.
So today, we're left wondering how his career might have played out if he hadn't been falsely accused in the first place. Speaking of rappers with unexpected career turns, Super Duper Kyle, better known as Kyle, was a standout in the 2017 SoundCloud rap era. While much of the scene was filled with pill-popping, word-slurring, and heavy mumbling rappers, Kyle brought something new to the table, which helped set himself apart: positivity. And it was first seen in his commercially successful mixtape titled Smile, which peaked at the 7th spot at Billboard thanks to a feature from Chance the Rapper. And although fans showed love to the project, others quickly pointed out a challenge that would follow him throughout his career: his blatant corniness. Love this album, despite him being the corniest rapper out right now. The wave I'm catching on this album is genuine. Still, the corny allegations didn't bother Kyle, as he wanted to use the momentum in his favor to boost his rap career even further. So when December of 2016 rolled around, that's when he finally released the biggest song of his career, titled I Spy, alongside Lil Yachty. The song was a massive hit, getting played everywhere. But it wasn't just popular with fans, it was a commercial success as well, reaching number 4 on Billboard. To add to that, I Spy currently has close to 1 billion streams on Spotify while going 8 times platinum. And as of recording this, the music video itself sits at 500 million views on YouTube too.
It streams like 100 and some million times a year, like still, you know what I mean? It's still streaming like 400,000 times a day.
And as far as fans calling him corny, Kyle didn't let that faze him, as he leaned more towards positivity and good vibes, even adding an intro to I Spy with a conversation with Lil Yachty, where the two talked and said, "You see the trees, man? You see this water? I guess it's okay. Come on, man. You got so much more to appreciate. Man, you know what? You're right." So, with the success of I Spy, it was clear that Kyle had finally made it to the mainstream. He was now seen as a rising rapper that fans were excited to hear more from. And of course, labels saw his buzz and started to show interest in signing him. And so, Kyle signed. A few months after landing a deal with a major record label, Kyle was invited to be a part of a stacked XXL freshman class together with the likes of XXXTentacion, Playboi Carti, Amine, A Boogie, and many more. Although his freestyle wasn't bad, fans were definitely making fun of him in the comments, writing, "Kyle the type of dude to drive the speed limit in GTA." But while these were quite harmless, others voiced out their displeasure at how corny he was. This is what the never-ending abyss of hell sounds like. I refuse to believe this is a real person and not some revolutionary marketing scheme for the newest Disney character. Knowing Kyle, he didn't let that affect him in the slightest, and once other ciphers finally dropped, he proceeded to rap the corniest bars possible, such as "Super Duper, Doggy Duder, shout out to Jesus, that's my shooter." Still, fans loved how genuine and willing he was able to promote positivity in hip-hop. With that, he released his debut studio album under Atlantic titled Light of Mine on May 18th in 2018. Although it only sold 17,000 units in its first week, the album went on to sell over 500k copies and earn a gold certification and go gold. But how did fans react to it? Well, they had nothing but positive things to say about it, writing, "Really hope Kyle can still blow up. Dude's probably top 3 new school for me right now." So after he released his debut album, Light of Mine, Kyle decided to make a very weird move. Instead of staying focused on his music and honing his craft, he decided to star in a comedy movie titled The After Party 3 months after his album dropped. This decision surprised many fans, as the cast was packed with stars including well-known rappers and hip-hop figures like Jadakiss, Wiz Khalifa, Charlamagne the God, and French Montana for some reason. However, even with such a lineup, the movie still ended up being completely mediocre and a flop. And it didn't help that fans had already made their minds about the film, voicing out their negative opinions before it was even released. Pretty ironic that the plot revolves around an aspiring rapper who wants to make it big in the scene, but the movie just caused Kyle's career to stagnate. A year later, the pandemic became a worldwide problem, and not only did it affect everyone in the world, artists like Kyle in particular, who could have benefited from touring, were strongly affected. You see, he released his second album, See You When I'm Famous, on July 17th of 2020, right when the pandemic was becoming a serious issue. This meant no tours, no live shows, and fewer opportunities to properly market the album. Kyle had to rely on the internet just to create some buzz, which still wasn't enough. The project, a downgrade from his past few albums to make it worse, only peaked at number 124 on Billboard and only lasted a week before completely falling off. And if you compare the fan reception of this album to The Light of Mine, it was obvious that they really didn't enjoy this release, with some writing, "I'm sorry, but I can't see how anyone past the age of 12 can listen to this guy. He's just way too immature/corny to take serious on any level in my opinion." So how did Kyle respond to the backlash and discussions around how underwhelming his album was? Well, here's what he had to say in an interview with Billboard. "I was so meticulous with trying to make the album perfect, and in my eyes, this is still the best thing I've ever done. It sucks to hear that he expected the album to do better because he thought that it was his best project he'd ever recorded from his point of view." He later added how surprising it was to see that fans didn't like it. But that shit really hurt me because it totally did not react in the way I was expecting it to. Kyle also wasn't shy in expressing how difficult it was to enjoy his life meaningfully during the pandemic.
In the middle of that pandemic, it was like, damn, life really sucked. At least from, I know for everybody, but like from my own personal experience, like I was really hating life. I just dropped See You When I'm Famous.
Of course, after an artist drops an album, it's common practice to go straight to touring to promote it even more. However, due to the circumstances brought by COVID, that wasn't really possible.
It's like in the middle of the pandemic, I can't go tour, I can't go do shit for it. Right.
To make matters worse, Kyle was dealing with a lot of issues with his label around the time, which led to him leaving them and going independent. In the same interview, when asked about his fallout with his label, he responded by saying, "I think I lost control over my art due to the expectations and pressure that surrounded my specific deal. When I Spy happened, I had this massive record, and there was this expectation surrounding the label that, oh, this is the kind of record that he's going to make, and he's going to do it like a factory again and again and again." According to Kyle, his label expected him to make the same music over and over following the success of I Spy. They probably wanted to make the best return on their investment. However, fans slowly got tired of listening to that same type of music. And according to him, his art became totally compromised because of that. And you get in that cycle of attempting that, and I realized my art is no longer being dictated by what I think is just cool. Honestly, to him, the expectations were just too unrealistic, and he could never meet them.
I'm chasing some sort of smash. Yeah. And especially for me, the smash record they want me to chase is like a diamond song.
So after leaving his label and going fully independent, Kyle still had his core fan base intact, waiting to see what he was going to drop next. And their wish would finally be answered once he eventually shared more details about his next project in a now deleted Twitter post, announcing that, "It's not so bad, my 5th project, January 28th. Instead of splitting the royalties with the label, I'll be selling this project as an NFT to give an opportunity for my fans to own this project with me. We're in this together, forever and ever. 2 hearts." If fans weren't already mocking him before, this hilariously awful announcement certainly gave them plenty of reason to do so. Because even though the NFT and crypto space were still getting noticed in the mainstream around that time, the negative stigma surrounding them was already at an all-time high. In fact, Kyle alienated the same fans that he kept talking about. For example, many fans within his community spoke out about how ridiculous it was for him to sell the project as an NFT, writing, "Super disappointed to see this, man." And once you hear his reason for doing so, you'd understand the hatred that Kyle fans felt. In an interview with Notion, they asked him the glaring question, "What sparked that decision and your interest in NFTs?" To which Kyle replied saying, "Well, my manager and one of my best friends, Nolan, is very into the blockchain and always is conversing about that. And we were presented the opportunity, and I thought about it and I was like, hey, releasing this as an NFT, really the important part of it for me was able to give an opportunity to people who say, hey, I like you and I love your music, you know?" And if that already didn't make zero sense, he later added, "The same person would hug me on the street. That person now has an opportunity to benefit from the art in the same fashion that I do. And that's just so powerful to me." You really have to feel for his diehard fans, watching their favorite rapper drop a mediocre album, followed by a 2-year wait, only for him to announce an NFT tied to his project. Wild. But enough about the NFT controversy. What about the album itself? Is it really as bad as they say? Well, when fans drop reviews like this after listening to an album, you know it's bad. From what I've listened to already, I simply don't like the sound from Kyle. This is not appealing to me like his last album, See You When I'm Famous, which, keep in mind, already sold very poorly. However, despite the failure of his last project, Kyle still regularly keeps in touch with fans through Patreon, as well as interacting with them more closely on Twitch, though he struggles to gain viewers there. But it isn't just his Twitch numbers which are suffering. His YouTube channel hardly cracks 100,000 plays per video. But it's not really a question of whether or not Kyle is still famous, it's more so how he can best serve his fans who've stuck with him throughout the years. The next rapper on this list is SoFaygo. Now, although nowadays it seems like he's nowhere to be found, at one point, it seemed like SoFaygo had limitless potential and was on track to be the next breakout star from the underground rap scene. But with his inclusion on this list, you already know that that never really happened. So what happened to SoFaygo? Well, before we get into that, we need to talk about his come up and how he first gained recognition. Making music from a young age, SoFaygo first found himself on most fans' radar when he dropped a project named Angelic 7, executive produced by Lil Tecca. This project featured a song called Knock Knock, which would later take his career to new heights. Soon, a music video for Knock Knock, directed by Cole Bennett on Lyrical Lemonade, was released, which served as his breakthrough song, racking up almost 100 million views in the process. The song went platinum and also went viral on TikTok, with thousands of fans dancing to it every day. And with all of this momentum and buzz, it was almost guaranteed that SoFaygo was up next. So in 2021, Travis Scott and his Cactus Jack imprint reached out to SoFaygo with an offer to sign him. This gave him the chance to work alongside other rising artists like Sheck West and Don Toliver, so without hesitation, he accepted the deal and officially signed. After all, it's Travis Scott's label, right? What could go wrong? Well, right from the jump, signing with Cactus Jack helped him build connections and get his name out there, landing features on both Trippie Redd and Don Toliver's respective albums. At this point, SoFaygo was on top of the rap world and was racking up millions of views left and right. So all he had to do was keep up his momentum by regularly releasing music. However, there was a problem. His last project had dropped back in 2020, leaving fans starving for new music and eagerly waiting for his debut studio album. Keep in mind, during this period, when he was arguably at his peak, he only released one song. That's right, just one song, which is supposedly the lead single for his highly anticipated album. However, it felt like he wasn't even trying to capitalize on his momentum. Some fans put Cactus Jack and Travis Scott on blast for allegedly preventing him from dropping new music.
Faygo just needs to drop more music, and that's the problem with signing. Whenever you sign to a big label, it's almost like, okay, just throw them on the shelf. I just feel like there's always way too much planning in music releases when in the underground.
However, it turned out it was actually SoFaygo who wasn't dropping, so he had nobody else to blame but himself. To make matters worse, this was also around the time when Travis Scott was facing his own issues and backlash following the Astroworld incident. So it meant that all the rappers signed to him had to wait for the negative PR to die down before they could go back to releasing music. And for someone like SoFaygo, who had been keeping fans waiting for almost 2 years by then, this was a horrible look. And after almost a year, SoFaygo dropped 2 projects, once again teasing fans about his debut album, Pink Hearts. At that point, Pink Hearts needed to be an instant classic. Otherwise, everything he had built up over the past 2 years would have been for nothing. Let's be real, it's not like he had built up that much anyway. Like I said earlier, dropping just one song in nearly 2 years is wild, unless you're Playboi Carti. So finally, on November 11th, 2021, Pink Hearts, his debut studio album, was released. So was the years-long wait worth it? Unfortunately for him, it really wasn't. Not only did the project fail to live up to the hype, it also sold incredibly poorly, as his long-awaited album only sold 7,000 copies in its first week. For an artist who had co-signs from well-established rappers like Travis Scott, Lil Tecca, Don Toliver, Trippie Redd, and many more, this was devastating news. Not even Pharrell's production with Uzi and Gunna features were enough to save the project from flopping, but there's more. See, it's understandable if artists sell poorly. After all, the most important thing is to keep fans happy, right? Well, fans felt the exact opposite of that, writing about how disappointed they were after listening to it. One fan said that he was so hyped to have this album drop on his birthday. I've been a fan of Faygo for years. It finally dropped and it's my birthday. I don't even know what to say. So hyped, this better be good. But after hearing it, he made sure to say how much of a letdown it was. Edit, that was one of the most boring albums I ever heard. This ain't the same dude who made Gear 2. Very disappointing. So while criticizing how bland the album turned out to be, others speculated whether the blame was on his management at Cactus Jack or on him. I don't know if it was him or the label, but this dude's career was so mismanaged. He was on the way to becoming the next mainstream star, and he doesn't release anything for over a year, and then drops some very standard middle-of-the-road SoundCloud type trap. So because of how underwhelming Pink Hearts was, it failed to chart on Billboard. By then, it was clear to everyone that his debut album was a massive failure. However, SoFaygo didn't take this all kindly and went out of his way to lash out at fans by writing that he didn't need fake supporters. Rather cut all you fake ass half supporters loose and rock with who really messing with me. My fan base only gets stronger over the years. Now, crashing out and blaming your fans like that is wild. However, his list of L's would only get longer from here on, because at Travis Scott's All-Star Weekend concert, the entire Cactus Jack roster was present, but one member was missing, SoFaygo. So where was SoFaygo amidst all this? I mean, this was a pretty huge deal. An NBA partnered concert for the All-Star Weekend was the best way to get his name out there. Well, while Don Toliver and Sheck West were performing at sold-out shows with Travis Scott, SoFaygo was out touring with Nav for some reason. But still, while fans speculated that he got dropped from Cactus Jack, he ignored the noise, got the memo, and finally started dropping music, releasing a 12-track EP titled Go Plus, which was originally meant to be a deluxe of his last album. And kudos to him, it was actually a quite solid project that was received well. Fans wrote, honestly pretty solid. Hopefully it's the beginning of a SoFaygo comeback. Furthermore, with Travis Scott gearing up for Utopia's next release, fans expected him to put SoFaygo on the album to take him to the next level. In fact, SoFaygo was even reposting some Utopia covers, which made fans assume that his feature was guaranteed. Honestly, this could have been the perfect time for SoFaygo to get that Travis stimulus pack. However, when Utopia finally dropped, he was nowhere to be found on the album. A major setback and disappointment for his fans. But despite all of this, fans were still eager for new SoFaygo music as the months passed, waiting for their favorite rapper to release his follow-up album. However, SoFaygo faced a major problem he just couldn't escape: leakers. You see, SoFaygo's unreleased album, titled Never Apologize, which he had hyped up for quite some time, sadly got leaked. And while leakers are already a nightmare for artists nowadays, SoFaygo had it even worse, because the leakers didn't only release a song or two, they leaked nearly the entire album. And just like that, 17 songs worth of work and hype was gone. One fan reached out to him and told him that the leaks were fire, to which Faygo responded by saying that they were screwing everything up. Yes, y'all messing shit up. By that point, you could tell how frustrated he was, and it was highly unlikely that he was going to drop the leaked tracks. However, Faygo's career began to stagnate once again due to a familiar issue: his lack of releases. Sure, having an album leak was a huge setback, choosing to go another year without dropping music was a bold and stupid move, especially given how poorly that worked for him in the past, and little by little, he was starting to lose fans. It's over for real this time. You were supposed to lead this generation of music, had the most unique voice and flows. You had the world wrapped around your finger in 2021. You had so much talent, but lacked in every single other aspect that you killed your own hype. Can't believe he ended up like this. Heartbreak emoji. Also, the fact that SoFaygo wasn't trying to communicate with his fans made it worse for them. Honestly, I agree. I've had enough with Faygo's antics. You can at least give some updates, information, etc., but instead he just leaves us with nothing. It's weird to see how he's been on the come up since 2021 and still hasn't blown up yet, which led to fans creating memes like this. However, SoFaygo is only 23 years old, so whether or not he proves everyone wrong is still in his control. Now, the final rapper on this list is MadeinTYO. We've heard time and time again about how rappers and other artists suffer under record labels that don't prioritize a certain artist, but what happens when a rapper manages to rack up hundreds of millions of streams and earn gold and platinum plaques, all while staying independent? Well, that's exactly how MadeinTYO went from being the guy that made Uber everywhere to, quite honestly, nowhere nowadays. But before we talk about what happened to his career, we first have to talk about how it got started in the first place. See, MadeinTYO grew up in a military-oriented family, which meant that he had to move around different states and countries from a young age. He lived in the Bay Area, Texas, New York, and Virginia before spending his teenage years in Tokyo. And it was there that he found inspiration to start taking rapping seriously, eventually adopting the city's name as his own rap name. And after he finally came home to the States, he and his brother immediately moved to Atlanta, where he recorded his first song that put him on the map, titled I Want. Although the song gained some plays here and there on YouTube and SoundCloud, it wasn't until he dropped the song Uber Everywhere a few months later that his career really took off. True to the track's name, the song was in fact being played everywhere, peaked at number 50 on the Billboard charts, and reached the 10th spot on urban radio upon its release. But his peak didn't stop there, because Uber Everywhere was popping off so much that he even announced that Travis Scott was going to hop on it for a remix.
But I feel like it's a matter of time how many people have been hitting me up, how many people like the record, how many people use Uber every day, that somebody from, if it's Kylie Jenner all the way to like Ellen DeGeneres, like somebody uses Uber.
He knew that he had a hit on his hands just based on the way he talked about the song.
If it's your grandma, if it's your auntie, or if it's me that don't have an L's and I just jump in an Uber.
Finally, the remix was no short of amazing. Travis put 100% effort in his verse. Not only that, he also recorded a music video with it. But Travis Scott wasn't the only one who rode the Uber Everywhere wave. Others like Tory Lanez, Joel Sammy, and Young M.A, to name a few, also dropped their own versions of the song, blowing it up more and more. Funnily enough, after Uber faced a lot of criticism for trying to capitalize off of protests that fought against travel bans imposed on Muslim-speaking countries, Tokyo took to Twitter and denounced the transportation company by promoting its competitor instead, at Lyft Everywhere. But that's besides the point. Now, most other SoundCloud rappers in this list tend to ink a deal with a massive record label after blowing up like this. However, Tokyo went a different direction. He wanted full control over his career. That meant owning the publishing rights, masters, and everything else tied to his music. So he and his brother founded an independent record label called Private Club Records and stuck with it, and decided not to sign him to a major label. And although he didn't have the massive backing and marketing of a major record label, he let his music do the talking, as Uber Everywhere pulled in huge numbers. Meanwhile, other singles like I Want and Skateboard P weren't that far behind, especially after the two had 2 Chainz and Big Sean remixes respectively, which helped boost his popularity. And here's the crazy part. All 3 songs went platinum after just a year of taking music seriously. So after he collected remixes from other well-known rappers, all eyes were on him, and fans were excited to see what he'd do next. So, using his momentum, he capitalized on it and dropped his debut mixtape, You Are Forgiven, which peaked at the number 122 spot on the Billboard charts. Interestingly enough, he was one of the most streamed new artists that year, outstreaming the likes of 2016 Cardi, Uzi, and many more. And fans had nothing but good things to say about this project, writing, "Even though Uber Everywhere is his biggest song and has been blowing up for a while now, I feel as if he will start gaining some real traction and start attracting a broader fan base. He is just so catchy." And the mixtape's success definitely helped his momentum moving forward, as he was selected for the XXL freshman class a year later in 2017, together with XXXTentacion, A Boogie, and Playboi Carti, which boosted his stock even more, earning new fans in the process. So things were only going to get better from here, right? Well, not exactly. His decision to stay independent eventually reared its ugly head, taking a toll on his career. Without the marketing power of a major label, staying relevant became a challenge, and with how quickly fans move on to the next big thing, Tokyo suddenly found himself left behind by the same audience that once embraced his smash hits, and although he hadn't fallen off by that point, it was clear that he wasn't doing the same numbers as before. Despite that, he still dropped a track with A$AP Ferg, which served as the lead single to his first and allegedly last album titled Sincerely Tokyo. Yeah, you heard that right. He announced that this would be his first and last album before moving back to Japan for good. It sounded like he was content with the success that he had reached with his first few hit songs, adding Uber Everywhere 2x Platinum, Skateboard P almost 2x Platinum, I went gold, done so much shows, tours, and you guys supported me and made all this happen, goals reached. So expectations were already at an all-time high for him to deliver a classic. After all, it was his first and last album, so fans thought that not only would he make it count, he would go out with a bang. However, when Sincerely Tokyo finally dropped, it wasn't received that well, both commercially and critically. It barely cracked the Billboard charts, debuting at the 98th spot, and it gets worse, because what's more important was that fans weren't satisfied with the project at all. Coming from a huge MadeinTYO fan, why is it that this man can make the best hooks and chooses to spit garbage hooks on every song on this project? In my opinion, this project is a huge step down from True's World. Other fans also pointed out how generic it sounded, and that Tokyo was regressing, explaining that he was getting worse instead of better. So after dropping his final album, did he finally move back to Japan and leave the rap game for good? Well, considering how little we hear from him nowadays, you'd be surprised to learn that it was just another case of hip-hop quote-unquote retirement, just like that time when Jay-Z took a break only to return, or even Lil Uzi. However, in Tokyo's case, he was back rapping in 2020 with his second album, Never Forgotten, which unfortunately flopped even harder. Hey guys, I just want to thank you for watching all the way to this point, and for that, I'm giving you guys a bonus section, and it's just 2 other SoundCloud rappers who also fell off. Just a disclaimer, these are older videos of mine, but yeah, enjoy. At one point, Young Bands was slated to become the next superstar to make it out of SoundCloud, and for a while, he was on track to do so. From 2017 to 2018, in a 7-month period, he had 3 Lyrical Lemonade videos, cosigns from rappers like XXXTentacion, was mentored by Future, and it seemed obvious that Young Bands was about to blow up and hit the mainstream. However, years later, the hype for Bands has faded away. The rapper, once known for his consistency, has dropped once in the last 2 years, begging the question, why would a rapper who's on the brink of becoming huge throw it all away? Well, what a lot of fans don't know is during his prime, Young Band's got into multiple beefs, scammed his fans, was on house arrest for 4 years, and a couple of years ago, even allegedly snitched. My name is Rashad Fashir, and this is how Young Band's blackballed himself. And before we talk about how his career got derailed, how did it begin in the first place? Bands was somewhat of a prodigy. His song with Cardi, 4 Teaspoon, was made when he was 14, and he dropped multiple SoundCloud classics with the likes of XXXTentacion and Ski Mask the Slump God, which propelled him to underground stardom. And in 2018, it looked like Bands was ready to step into the mainstream. That year, Bands ended up being mentored by Future and affiliated with Free Bands. And after dropping 3 Lyrical Lemonade videos with a combined 60 million views and over 100 million streams, it was clear Bands was going places. But Bands was still a kid from the hood in Atlanta, and he would do whatever he could to make money. And this past ended up biting him in the back. So the first fatal mistake Bands would make and jeopardize his career wasn't actually a beef. It was a legal situation that led to him being placed on house arrest for 4 years. One day in late 2015, Bands and his friends walked into a condo, kicked a door, and began ransacking a residence. The owner, scared out of his mind, ran to the balcony and called the police. Bands and his friends continued on, and the owner, he began to panic even more. While on the phone with the police, he told them he would jump, and he did. The balcony was 3 stories high. Bands and the rest of his friends finished the job and left, and apparently they had to pass the body while they drove off, and decided not to help. The man laid there all night, and by the time the morning came, let's just say he went to a better place. So for a couple of months they laid low, but 3 months later, on February 16, 2016, they would all get arrested and get charged with the M word. The whole time, Bands hadn't even turned 18 and was placed in juvenile detention. Luckily for Bands, he displayed excellent behavior and got out on house arrest. And soon after getting awarded house arrest, Bands was buzzing, but he couldn't do shows or accept any other offers to headline tour with other artists. So for the next few years, he was forced to sit in his house with his future unknown. And even said himself, it negatively affected his career.
I can't perform like I want to, you know. Can't go on no tours. I got invited to a couple tours I couldn't go to. That would have been a good boost for my career, you know what I'm saying? To be out touring 30 different states with a bigger artist.
Which is true, he couldn't capitalize on his hype, but it wouldn't take long for bands to get distracted and began to beef with other rappers either. The first beef he got into was the man who was featured on his viral song, 4 Teaspoon, Playboy Cardi. It turned out Young Bands had never paid Cardi for his verse. The song had originally put Bands on the map because of how hot Cardi was at the time, and Cardi was salty because he felt taken advantage of. So he told his friend 1000 Band Funny to help him get back against Bands in person.
Nigga on the 4 tablespoons. You talking about, bro, this ain't even pay me for the feature for the 4 tablespoons, right? So you calling me, bro, let's pull up and edit this shit out.
So Cardi was about to put a hit on Bands for not paying for a feature. And that wasn't all. Fast forward a little bit, and Cardi was beefing with one of Bands' producers, Milan Makes Beats, who he also threatened. Milan and Bands were really tight at this time, and were working heavily. So Bands took Milan's side, and when Cardi took to Milan's Twitter DMs to threaten him, and Milan exposed him, Cardi would later call him a snitch. So Bands would go on live to defend his producer from Cardi, and explained his producer wasn't a snitch.
Can't really call him a snitch. He just letting the situation be known for what it is. You know, like, that situation, you know what I'm saying? He ain't snitching. What is that snitch on?
In reality, it was Cardi.
You think Cardi snitching on himself, saying he gonna pull up on this in a DM? You snitching on yourself, you goofy. Honestly.
And explained that he didn't have real beef with Cardi in his eyes.
Me and Cardi ain't really nothing going on. Just mad. Like, he just mad. You know what I'm saying? Cause I guess the Milan situation.
And that Milan was his brother.
Milan my bro. I'm ride for who ride for me. You know what I'm saying? Simple. Loyalty go a long way. You gotta remember that.
Very, very, very wise words from Mr. Young Bands, but ironically, he did the same thing Cardi did to Milan, steal beats, and Milan dropped a diss track on him too. And Bands also said that Cardi was a farming tool.
Need to hold like real life, bro. Like all that rap shit, all that extra shit, talking about his song, bro. Besides all that, nigga still is really a hoe. You know what I'm saying? I can't hang around no hoe.
But wait, there's even more. Bands and Cardi would go back and forth being cool over the years, and in 2020, they were seen in the studio together on Instagram Live, and they made a song called High As Us. However, later the song leaked, and Bands, still in his feelings, said he would replace Cardi on the song with Uzi. Still furious, he also DM'd the account that allegedly leaked the song. He asked, "How you get the song?" The account replied, "DN." Young Bands naively fell for it and asked, "Who's DN?" The fan responded, "These nuts." But that wasn't important. The nail in the coffin was when Young Bands got exposed, and I kid you not, by a meme page, for backdooring Cardi on the internet. Bands DM'd the meme page to make a meme accusing Cardi of plagiarizing, but the meme page was a Cardi fan, so he exposed Bands for asking meme pages to make and repost memes that suggest he carried Playboy Cardi on a song. So Bands got caught sneak dissing Cardi through internet meme pages. This was 100% of Young Band's fault, and surprisingly, Cardi was the good guy, which if you're a fan of Cardi, you know the bar isn't exactly set too high. On top of all of that, the song never came out, and Bands even paid Cardi $100,000 for the feature, so Cardi did end up getting his revenge. However, Bands wasn't just beefing with his fellow rappers from Atlanta. He also decided to beef with anyone else he felt like. The first being Russ. From 2017 to 2018, Russ was a community punching bag for SoundCloud rappers like Lil Pump, and Young Bands decided to take a couple of jabs himself, calling Russ trash and a lot of other names that would get you in trouble. Bands was talking tough, saying things like,
"Russ, he don't want no smoke."
Yeah.
No smoke.
And claiming that Russ was soft.
Literally, Russ was the guest feeling butthurt. He was feeling sad like Lil Xan. Was trolling him. He was on some sad shit.
But Band's big bro told him to lay off and apologize, and said Russ's feelings were hurt, and that Russ wanted to settle it over the phone. Band thought to himself,
like, bro, I really don't give a f. He's like, you know what I'm saying? We trolling, but know that who cares, bro?
But he got his number and began talking. And after speaking, he felt bad and
as a real, I understood where he was coming from.
So the beef was squashed.
We squashed it, like we squashed it. You know what I'm saying? We squashed it.
He tweeted, "Just got off the phone with @Russ, and it's all love. Sometimes you gotta put yourself in other person's shoes as a real one. It's quiet for the Russ. He hit me as a real person and let me know his view on this, and I respect it, so it's dead." And Russ co-signed it with prayer hand emojis. However, fans thought Bands did it out of fear, not because he was trying to do the right thing. Because earlier, Russ made an appearance on The Breakfast Club in which he threatened to release embarrassing videos of Smoke Perp and Bands. And after Russ released the video of Smoke Perp catching a fatal case with the beats, fans thought Bands was next and believed Bands only made up because he was afraid of Russ. So the next day, Bands dissed him again.
But then like the next day, you didn't really feel the same way?
Got it.
And explained he wasn't scared of Russ.
What pissed me off, the fans came out like, "Oh, Bands is scared of Russ. That's why he did that." Bro, I don't give a Russ. You know what I'm saying? Like literally, I don't give a about none of that. You
literally like called me and begged me like, basically just had the internet stop trolling you like.
And he made one of the best excuses I've ever witnessed. He claimed his manager hacked him and changed all his passwords and made the announcement, "Y'all not gonna believe what happened yesterday. My manager hacked me and changed my passwords," and tweeted out saying it's not F Russ anymore, cause he felt I should squash the beef. SMH, my true 1 of 1 fans know I ain't scared of no one. F Russ for life. I would never betray my fans. We stand on 10. And afterwards, took multiple more shots at Russ, calling Russ a female dog, trash, and that Russ should be in jail. While this was all going on, Bands was also steaming hot in the rap game, but he was reckless and was getting into beefs left and right, something that today fans don't remember or realize how negatively this really affected him. He'd even dissed Lil Xan and commented on his Instagram, "L, your new name Russ Jr." And once again, he dissed Xan because of his ego. They made a song together and Lil Xan didn't repost it on his Instagram story.
You did a song with him or something at some point, and then you just randomly on Twitter said like, "I wish I didn't do that song with Lil Xan."
He didn't post a song.
Oh.
So Bands claimed Xan was fake.
Gotta stop showing fake love, bro. This rap is just too oversaturated with fake, bro.
And that he never should have done a song with him. Another beef fans would get into was with Offset, who allegedly gave him the beats for talking about Cardi B, his wife. On Offset's Instagram story, he said, "After I got in the mall, I would talk smack too. They don't tell you that part, how they got washed in sacks." So something definitely went on between them in the mall. And this incident prompted a troll from Bands, a video where he showed his face and said he wasn't touched by Offset.
My face. Do it look like I left out bad and bullshit?
And also told Cardi B to check her DM.
Tell Cardi B check her DM though.
Bands had said he'd like to engage in certain endeavors with Cardi B, Offset's wife, for the culture, and to poke more fun at them, showed off a wire end chain, the Migos slogan, inferring he had their chains. This was very foolish, as young Bands was on supervised house arrest, and mentioning Offset's family wasn't a smart idea because that's usually when people take things to the next level. And you have to remember that at this time, the Migos were at the top of rap in their prime, and Bands being from Atlanta, if Offset wanted to do something, he could've. But Bands wasn't just beefing with rappers, he was also scamming his fans, and it wasn't a single occurrence, he was doing it all the time. And there were 2 notable instances where he scammed teenage fans for large sums of money. The first fan he scammed was a 16-year-old fan of his. Bands responded to a fan's message and said he needed $2,000 for a feature from the fan. After the money was sent, Bands told him he had to send $200 more because Bands had responded to him, so he charged a speaking fee. Months went by, and after many requests, the fan never got the feature or his money back. He was played. The next fan Bands scammed was also young, and it was for $2,500. After the money was sent, Bands ghosted the fan, so the fan contacted Bands' manager, who explained that the fan should have contacted the manager first, not Bands, admitting that Bands couldn't be trusted to do business, which was kind of funny. The manager did resolve the issue, but sent a recycled verse to the fan, and after receiving tons of backlash online, Bands' manager refunded the fan so that the fan would take down the expose. The next rapper young Bands got into beef with was Lil Yachty. It began with Bands teasing his new album Misunderstood, and Yachty thought he was copying him, so he tweeted, "Misunderstood is literally an imprint of teenage emotions." Bands said, "You a whole farming tool, and your music will never sound like mine. What is teenage emotions, sweet boy?" Yachty then tweeted, "At young Bands, you my son, stop trying to be me." Bands said, "Misunderstood finna be better than your last 3 albums though." During this beef, academics chimed in and called Bands slow, saying, "Misunderstood is literally an imprint of teenage emotions." The beef ended when Lil Yachty showed DMs of young Bands showing love to him, trying to link up with him, congratulating him, sending him music to hop on, and even wishing him a happy birthday. Young Bands even told Yachty he was trying to be like him one day, even glazing him, talking about how much jewelry Yachty had back in 2017. Yachty then said, "Y'all go get that Misunderstood though," clown emoji. Bands then told Yachty, "At Lil Yachty, you sold 29K and you got 9 million followers. I don't know why you was ever laughing, kid," clown emoji, which wasn't a good look for what was coming for Bands. And if you look at the 2 album covers, they do look pretty similar. Some of the people in Yachty's album were even put in Bands' album cover, and as a fan of both artists, I'd have to say neither of the albums were insane, so no one really won this beef. And later on, Bands said Yachty was just being soft.
I feel like it wasn't even, it still was a joke. Just take shit overly offensively when they hating.
But Adam 22, someone much older than Bands, tried to check him and warned him to be careful with beefing with others.
But you're kind of too big to just be like talk shit about somebody and thinking it ain't gonna turn into something. Like you're out here still acting like you're just like a regular dude. Like people ain't gonna give a fuck if you just, cause like calling some random dude in the comments is like that. Everybody who ain't famous gets to do that and nobody thinks about it. But once you're famous, then all of a sudden it's a thing.
Unfortunately, Bands didn't take this advice. He was just,
but I'm telling you, Adam, I'm still a regular dude, bro.
The Yachty beef was pretty embarrassing for bands, but even worse than the beef was the fact that bands had chosen to beef with Academics, who bands was actually cool with at one point, and they even had a live stream together. But unlike Yachty, Academics was not gonna let bands' disrespect go, and took advantage of bands' misfortune. Bands claimed he didn't like how Academics would only post negative news.
Is it the same energy with Academics?
We the #1 media source, you know what I'm saying? One of the #1 media sources like in this rap. He throwing a lot of salt. He throwing salt. He throwing accusations.
Academics told bands his music would flop, called it trash, and much more. What's ironic is bands said,
as soon as he hit you with some facts, you know what I'm saying? Like them the people who argue the best. Like them the people who make people like go crazy.
And when Band's album flopped and failed to make the Billboard 200, Academics came with the facts. On July 24th of 2019, Young Bands dropped Misunderstood, and after 1 week, it didn't even sell 4,000 units. The album had features from Gunna, Lil TJ, XXXTentacion, Young Thug, Future, Nav, and Lil Durk. Future had originally tweeted a message of congrats and pointed out that Young Bands did this without a major label, because Bands was independent. However, this didn't turn out how Bands thought it would. The pitfall of being independent was Bands didn't have the help most artists have access to boost their sales. But that didn't matter. To the public, he had flopped, and Academics would go on a tweet spree clowning Young Bands, saying, Young Bands failed to sell 10K first week with Misunderstood despite acting fake independent. By the way, he's actually signed to a major. Y'all can't stop that lie. And also having features from Gunna, Lil TJ, XXXTentacion, Young Thug, Future, Nav, and Lil Durk. Flopped. Young Bands could have used Academics to help him get favorable coverage, but instead he burned a bridge. And it actually turned out that he had tried to recruit Academics, because Academics had showed that Bands had DM'd him asking Academics to help promote Misunderstood on his page, and called Bands bipolar. Furthermore, Bands was receiving hate for putting a voice memo of XXXTentacion as a feature, and Academics called him out for that as well. Bands, well, he didn't have a response, and the curse of DJ Academics moves on. And the week after, Bands finally took some accountability after a member of his team spoke to him. In an interview with Genius, he said, Ebony, she's a part of my team and we talk all the time. She called me one day and she was just like, yo, all that beefing and stuff, you're just so talented. I don't want it to distract everyone from the music. He continued, so actually, now that I think about it, it does a little bit, Bands said. And after what followed, it was evident Bands realized too late. On December 3rd of 2019, in a miraculous turn of events, Young Bands had beat his M-word case. He shared a video of him without his ankle monitor and in good spirits, saying, just got off house arrest and beat my case after 4 years. I think it's time for me to set up a tour. Where y'all want me to come? And in a statement to XXL, Bands made it clear he was ready to go up. This is the start of a new life for me. I got nothing holding me back. I want to thank my family and all my fans for keeping me sane during this whole situation. Now it's time to go up. But it didn't go how he wanted. Right after he got off of house arrest, the lockdowns began, and he was back stuck in the house. So Bands wasn't able to capitalize off of his newfound freedom. In fact, ever since he got off of house arrest, Bands stopped releasing music. In fact, he's only released 3 songs of his own since Misunderstood, and the last time he dropped his own single was in 2021, 2 years ago. There were a couple of times where he could have dropped some singles with potential, such as the song with Cardi, but that fell through, and he never released it with Uzi. There was a point in time where him and Yeet were gonna drop a song as well, but that fell through too. Furthermore, in 2022, Young Bands was allegedly exposed for dry snitching on one of his co-defendants. One of Band's friends, Trap Trill, took to Instagram and explained he'd been locked up since 2016 for someone who he never saw in his life, Young Bands, because Bands went to the police and cooperated, including Trap Trill's name. And Trap Trills only spared Bands because Bands was paying for his lawyer, calling Bands a P-word and a snitch. Bands had previously shouted out Trap Trill in songs. Mess with solid guys, no my guys never tell, free Trap Trill, they done gave my brother hell. However, it turned out Bands didn't actually snitch, he just stopped paying for Trap Trill's lawyer, but the snitching allegations remained. So at the end of the day, Young Bands made more than a few blunders in his path to stardom, and that's why it never happened. So in 2023, Young Bands has probably missed out on his chance to make it big in rap, but he still has a loyal underground fan base, and I think a comeback is possible. When Comethazine's career first kicked off, he was at the forefront of SoundCloud rap, on XXL's freshman list, and had a remix from A$AP Rocky. He was everywhere, and out of his peers from the cloud rap era, he had a sound that could have translated to the mainstream. But years later, Comethazine is no longer relevant, and it seems like everyone has forgotten about him, even his own fans. So what happened? Well, unlike most artists in this series, Comethazine didn't beef with too many people. Rather, it was his erratic behavior and how he moved. And if you never paid attention to how Comethazine acted in public and treated people, you might even be shocked. My name is Rashad Bashir, and this is how Comethazine blackballed himself. But before we talk about how his career went into the hole, how did he get so hot in the first place? Comethazine came up during the SoundCloud era, when artists artists like Lil Pump were hot, and early in his career he was even copying some of them, like TK and Smoke Perp. Comethazine's big break actually came when he got a music video for his song Might Cop a Jag, featured on the platform Elevator, where a lot of underground rappers got their first push in the industry, from artists like 21 Savage, G Herbo, all the way to people like XXXTentacion and Lil Mosey, when they were all small. Long story short, Might Cop a Jag went up, getting millions of views, and Comethazine was getting hit up by labels left and right. And in November of 2017, he inked a deal with Alamo Records. The following year, in August of 2018, he dropped the first Bosky album, an incredible album with almost no skips, which today is where most of his most popular songs on streaming platforms are from, one of them being Walk, which scored a Lyrical Lemonade video, a huge boost for an artist's career at that time, even getting an A$AP Rocky remix, which is super rare. And at this time in his career, fans were hyped for what Comethazine was gonna do next. He had the music persona, style, as well as his own little fan base, all the ingredients required to blow up as a rapper. So it's safe to say Comethazine was on track to become the next big thing. Except it didn't play out how fans thought it would, and a big part of this was his behavior. Looking back, Comethazine was just a horrible person, or maybe not horrible, he just had no idea how to act. People always made jokes about how Comethazine had black Air Force energy, cracking jokes like Comethazine's the type of guy to rob his own wallet, show up as a witness to his own trial, eat his own candles at his birthday party, etc. But Comethazine has a history of just acting a fool. For example, there's a video of him vandalizing a Target with a kid's bike helmet on.
No, Comethazine in this. Hold up.
The employee told him,
"Yeah, well, we have some stuff we're trying to buy." Okay. No horsing around. I saw you go clean with the
yo,
baseball bat and shit.
but Comethazine said,
Nah, bro, we testing it out before I buy it, bro. What you talk about?
the manager was actually really nice and gave Comethazine a warning.
Yo, what? What do you say?
But Comethazine said,
You ordered. Nah, bro, we testing it out, bro.
and continued to disrespect him.
Man, shut the fuck up, bro. Alright, let me have it. Shut up with all of you, bro. Yo, nah, f that shit, bro.
Let's just buy your underwear.
So the manager finally had enough and decided to kick him out.
Bro, keep talking, bro. Chill out.
Stop. Alright, okay.
Bro.
And afterwards, Comethazine got mad at the employee and said he was just being a real one.
Called him the Jakes on me because I'm a real He was just test driving a bike.
There are all sorts of little instances of him acting like a douche. While shopping at a mall, Comethazine was approached by a heckler, but instead of just leaving, he decided to take matters into his own hands, if you know what I mean.
That Comethazine. Hey, Comethazine, what you taking your shit out for? Oh, bitch, you ain't gonna.
He'd also get into altercations with random people on the street.
You know what I'm saying, man?
Even posting a fake video of him getting into an altercation with a police officer. Which is just corny. You shouldn't have to prove how tough you are. There's a situation where he threw his mic at a DJ. The DJ played a couple sound effects after Comethazine told him to turn the music down. Comethazine got mad and threw his mic at the DJ. There are even more videos of him harassing public workers as well. At a gas station, he got impatient, so he decided to grab what he wanted himself.
I ain't gonna lie, I've been waiting too long for this to come back from the back. I'm finna get my own shit. Let me get some backwoods, bro.
And then lit it up in the store.
Oh, you cannot do that. You cannot do that. No. Hey.
The thing is, Comethazine was actually just a nice kid growing up. A video surfaced of Comethazine being excited for a Disney audition, and he tried to send in a video and audition himself for a Disney show. He was crying in it and everything. So he went from auditioning to Disney to acting how I just showed you. And what's funny is he tried to play the embarrassing video off.
Man, that shit wasn't even a Disney audition. Believe whatever you say, but I was really just a young making a video, man. Disney.
But it just wasn't fooling anyone. And after high school, he wasn't in the streets. He was a mechanic, and his real name is Frank. How am I supposed to be scared of a dude named Frank? But Comethazine also did get into some beef, which was all his fault, and he didn't really win or come out of any looking better than he did before. In fact, he actually looked pretty bad after most of them. The first person Comethazine beefed with was TJX6 for absolutely no reason. Comethazine had actually posted a video of him listening to TJX6 and Keisha Kwan's music, but later on, TJX6 posted on Instagram and showed that Comethazine had blocked him for no reason, saying, "Bitch blocked me, but was just listening to Dynamic Duo." And TJX6 also posted the video of Comethazine listening to his music. Comethazine saw the post and decided to block him, and then DM'd TJ saying, "Hey." TJ said, "Yo." Comethazine said, "Your man's finna get touched." TJ said, "Lol." Comethazine said, "Tonight." TJ then posted the DMs to Instagram saying, "This guy's a joke," which is true. Comethazine never touched TJ's mans or guys, and that was that. It really just showed Comethazine wasn't like that at all. He also got into beef with another rapper, Sauce Moolah. It started with Sauce Moolah dissing Comethazine on a story, blaming Comethazine for trying to audition on Disney as a kid, saying, "Nah son," and "good kid," which is valid. And Sauce Moolah flexed a bunch of money, saying this is not play money, implying Comethazine uses fake money. He also dropped a song, Bosky K, and made his location Disney Channel, just trolling Comethazine. Fans were confused why Sauce Moolah was just coming for Comethazine at first, but it turned out Comethazine actually called out Sauce Moolah for posting a snippet with the type of aggressive beat and flow Comethazine is known for using, and Sauce Moolah would continue to dog on him.
And I'm trolling because this ain't no rap beef. Don't ever do nothing to me. You can't ever have a show in New York. I dare you. Again, flock the dead pussy. I'm not one of these SoundCloud FaceTime.
And even exposed Comethazine for previously being in the army as someone who claimed to be from the streets.
Little army boy. Little army boy. Heard about you. You was in the army. Only time you.
So Comethazine clearly messed with the wrong person. Sauce Moolah wasn't just some SoundCloud rapper who was fake tough with face tats. He was actually about it. Comethazine got clowned on and exposed for being in the army. And then he just never responded because he knew he wouldn't be able to hold his own. And all this erratic behavior would rub off on his own career. In 2020, a fan made a post on his subreddit saying, "I love Comethazine, but I'm worried about his future. I've been a fan of Comethazine for a while now, and this year I'm getting worried that he'll play out or that Bosky 4 flops, but I hope not." He turned out to be right. Unfortunately, after Comethazine's massively successful album, Bosky, he became a one-trick pony and began dropping the same type of music over and over on all of his projects, and people who were fans of him from earlier started losing interest.
Speaking of Comethazine though, I used to fuck with Comethazine so heavy back in the day. However, I feel like dude is literally making the same song over and over and over, rapping the same way, like there's no progression.
Often we get mad at artists like Uzi, Trippy, and Cardi for changing their style so much, but we don't realize that we probably wouldn't be fans of them anymore if they didn't. And Comethazine is a prime example of that.
Because I have surely fallen out of being a fan of a Comethazine. I honestly do not give one shit about his Comethazine project.
You can drop the same type of song with the same flow once, twice, 3 times, maybe do an album around it, but you can't do it 200 times. Furthermore, Comethazine took a year to drop his album Bosky 4 during the pandemic, and despite promising the album, he just dropped a bunch of lackluster singles. And now that I think of it, he's probably looking for another hit, except as we all know, that never came. So after his Bosky album, due to the repetitive nature of his new albums, they stopped selling well and kept declining in sales till they were almost non-existent. His Bosky 4 album only sold 2.5K first week, and this is a screenshot from 2020. As you can see, none of his recent songs came even close to the numbers that his songs in previous years did. So without any hits, a lower amount of views, and the time spent off the Billboard charts, his music got lost in the thousands of people that dropped in 2020. Having back-to-back flops didn't help either. And at this point, his fall off was imminent. And in terms of his buzz, where it was a couple of years ago, it just wasn't the same. But hey, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Comethazine just needed someone to tell him that what he was doing was getting stale and he had to switch it up. Well, a fan actually gave Comethazine some constructive criticism from a place of love, saying, "You gotta switch it up, this low-key boring." No hate, just saying maybe get a few more producers and collabs in your stuff. Here's what Comethazine had to say. And then made fun of the fan for being a fan of him.
Look at you, November 28th. Preview something. So lame, but so broke.
This is like a new low. Imagine roasting a fan for caring about your career. So later, fans would just make fun of him, and Comethazine would get even more mad. For example, a fan made fun of Comethazine after replying to a story, making fun of Comethazine for getting beaten up by Wale and some nobody in Spotify first week albums. Comethazine got mad and said, "Shut the f you. Enjoy what I give you, ungrateful," and then said some things that can't be said on YouTube. And by the time 2022 struck, there wasn't even an ounce of hype left for Comethazine's music.
Maybe I'm just hating. But I just still don't think Comethazine is gonna sell that much. We're gonna get in the next week, Comethazine sells like, we're gonna clown him again, like he sells like 1.4K albums this week. Like, how much do y'all actually think he's selling?
And by that time, fans on his own subreddit began making posts about how he fell off, saying, "It's confirmed, bro. Legit 0 copies and did 10 times worse than Comethazine the album. Grails were ruined. I think it's time to accept the fact that he fell off. Don't say, oh well, Comethazine is now only for loyal fans. This is the end of Comethazine. Sorry to break it to y'all. He does 0 promotion, talks smack to his fans, and then proceeds to block people when they ask for a song or album drop. But Comethazine did do some stuff right. He was ridiculously consistent. For one of his albums, he dropped a music video for each of the songs on the album, which is actually really cool, and more artists should do that. But after seeing all the criticism and the poor sales numbers for his previous work, for his next album, titled Comethazine the Album, he told fans he would finally be working with others and putting features on the project. But the night the album was dropping, he made the announcement, "The features are producers. Sorry, Comethazine doesn't mess with rappers. Comethazine the Album dropping tonight. This is for the cult. Everybody who don't know us. We lead the underground daily." It turned out it wasn't just Comethazine not wanting to do features. Other rappers didn't really like him.
I heard from when I was out in the mix, it's not necessarily always the fact that Comethazine don't rappers. It's just that this dude always tries, like in real life, the way he raps, apparently he like acts like he's that hard dude, but he's actually soft or something. And I'm not trying to diss.
Another major reason Comethazine began to fall off was his label issues. Although Comethazine's label did so much for him, for some odd reason, he just decided he hated them and began beefing with his label.
I got a label. And is it your label? Nah. So what's the label situation?
No. Alamo Records, bro.
But they did do quite a bit for him, because after they signed him, they got him all the industry connections he needed and all the promotion he needed. And in 2021, he said, "My label, the ops." But by that year, he was no longer one of his label's top priorities. In the years prior, Comethazine was making the money, but by 2020, that was no longer a thing. On top of that, cloud music had begun to lose its popularity fast, and if you weren't able to make a shift, you wouldn't be able to survive. And Comethazine, he didn't make a shift. From 2018 to 2020, rap completely changed. Atlanta, Chicago, and New York made a huge comeback, and Comethazine's TK sound was outdated. Comethazine did the opposite of evolve. Instead, he made the same album every year for 3 years, slowly losing popularity, until there wasn't much left. His label noticed this. Alamo had originally invested in Comethazine and Smoke Perp, thinking they were going to be the next big thing. And when their careers faltered, and artists like Rod Wave, Lil Durk, and DaBaby, who were also on Alamo Records, began to flourish, they stopped investing into him. And there's no way someone with Comethazine's behavior had a great relationship with his label. But there were other artists on his label who never changed their sound, like Rod Wave. Except as an artist or any type of creator, you had to be aware of your audience. And Comethazine's audience was young, so they were changing. Unlike Rod Wave, who were a bit older and more mature. Comethazine, he had to grow with his fans. He just didn't. So it made sense why the label wasn't gonna push Comethazine as hard anymore. However, there were much more than just label issues. Today, Comethazine has completely disappeared. He's deactivated his Instagram and gone completely ghost. Earlier in the year, in the middle of 2023, Comethazine has his name as Frank Cole and some pictures of a film that he was starring in, shot by himself. And he was also making a TV show. I guess he was just trying to heal his inner child, but it never finished, as well as the movie he was making. So he got a little sidetracked. But aside from all that, the main problem for Comethazine is his biggest songs are all from 2018 and 2019, which is gonna make it hard for him to come back all these years later. The momentum you have as an artist when you first blow up is like none other, and it's really difficult to rekindle once you lose it. But before I go, I will say this. Comethazine really does have a chance to make a comeback. His sound wasn't super SoundCloudy. He could fit on street beats, and there's always going to be a market for that. He just needs one hit and a little determination and focus, and he'll be back like he was never gone, regardless of his previous label situation or his behavior. However, as unfortunate as Comethazine's fall off was, there are some rappers who had it all: money, cars, and everything they wanted. In other words, they were filthy rich, but eventually they lost it all and went broke. And if you want to find out what happened, check out our video on it titled "Filthy Rich Rappers Who Went Broke."